also joined us. I could see in the participant list. So
yeah. So
we
are my
expect.
slides visible?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Abdul, can you, is it visible? My slides are visible?
Yes, sir, visible.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, Dr. Abdul, for giving that introduction. Thank you very much to all the participants for being here. I'll be speaking on kind of giving a background to the discussions that is following, specifically with regard to Bengal tea. And what I will be doing is to kind of give an overview about the various issues around uh, labor and employment in the sector, in the tea sector as such. So my presentation is not going to be so much focused on Bengal as such, but I'll be trying to give an overview about what is happening what are the broad trends, what are the big things, big changes that are going on at the national level with regard to the tea sector as such. That's the goal. So, Dr. Abdul, around 15 minutes or so, can you please give me an indication so that I can go to the conclusions? So this is the structure of my presentation. I would be doing this. I'll be talking a little bit about the demand conditions right now, how it has changed over over the period of time. Then give some breakup data with regard to what is the nature of employment that is there, and then looking at the employment that is within the plantation employment itself. Then we will be comparing labor productivity and wage rates. Then we will be looking into issues around wages, that is when wages, gender wage gaps, and types of work wage gap assets. Then small discussion about labor relations and labor processes, and some tentative conclusions as to what we are seeing in the currently with regard to the tea plantation sector as such. Before I discuss the demand conditions, and these are the data sources that I have used, that is the National Sample Surveys and the periodic labor force surveys for estimation of workers, the Labor Bureau reports for the plantation data, then the tea statistics and some unpublished data from Tea Board, and the data that is we got from request from the Tea Board as such. These are the data that I have used during the presentation as such. Now, what Dr. Hanan had started with, that is how the tea economy itself had undergone vast changes since the independence period. Prior to independence, we did have a large thriving tea economy, and we continue to have it so. But the way in which the tea economy has been functioning, that has changed, and there has been dramatic changes in the way in which tea has been functioning. The production of tea and the consumption of tea itself has changed through this vast history of about 200 years as such, right? Now, for the ease of discussion, in terms of abstraction, people do divide it into 3 points of time, and which is what I have done here also: pre-independence phase, then independence, post-independence, but regulated phase of the tea market, and then you have the unregulated or the post-liberalization phase of the tea market as such. Now, in terms of the production of output, in terms of the input, that is basically the labor question that we are looking at, these 2 things, as well as the institutional arrangements, these 3 phases worked quite differently across these 3 periods. It's important to discuss this because the ongoing changes right now has their roots in from the periods that we were discussing about, from the pre-independence period onwards. Like, for instance, the structure of land size in which tea is being produced now has its roots in the colonial period as such. But this is changing fast. So a little bit of discussion about this would be important to set the context as such. So I have kind of tried to identify on the basis of a broad understanding of how production takes place during these 3 phases, what I call as production logic, and I have termed it as 3 different things over there. If you look at, I have named it as the production logic during the pre-independence was to achieve competitiveness, essentially because tea was an export-oriented crop. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, sir. I think your slides are not moving.
Your slides.
Okay, so which slide can you see? Which slide is the
first
slide?
It is, you are in the first slide only now.
Okay.
We can only see the first slide.
First slide. Okay. I'll just let me just take it off again and then I'll put it back. Is it visible now? Is there a different slide that is visible?
Yeah, it's you're in the second slide. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a slide with it's a slide number 4. Is it visible like that?
You can see the
Which
slide with the pre-independence phase.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So these are the things that we are looking at, and I have classified them into 3 groups. That is production logic, basically achieving competitiveness. Tea was an export-oriented crop during the pre-independence phase. We continued to be a export-oriented crop even after independence, but after liberalization, stories have changed a lot. But during the pre-colonial phase, what the stories behind it is very well known, but just to say that competitiveness, achieving international competitiveness was the prime story during the pre-independence phase. We had an international competitive market for tea, and Indian tea had to survive in the international competitiveness market. And labor in this particular tea economy had to be regulated and used in a manner which would be using what we call as colonial institutional mechanisms with features of feudal labor system that was used to control and discipline workers such that tea production continued to use. Now, when I use the term feudal labor, please don't think that I'm talking about a traditional agricultural feudal system over here, but the relationship between the employer and the employee had features that replicated certain degree features of feudalness in it. So it doesn't mean that we are talking about a feudal economy here, but certain features of feudalness, that is, certain non-market relations existed between the employer and employee in the labor in using labor in the colonial periods as such. And institutional arrangement was there were state laws, rules, and policies that were aimed at improving competitiveness and making tea an internationally consumed product from India itself. In the second phase, we had in the second phase, it was the independent period when we had achieved, we were continue to tried to achieve international competitiveness. But here there was a very big difference between the earlier period and the second period. That is, when the earlier period, when we were trying to achieve internationally competitive labor market, at the same time, within the state, within the country, an internally regulated domestic market starts developing also. The international market still continued to be important, but the internal domestic market was starting to grow in a manner, and the tea production, tea processing, tea exports, entire economy was being regulated through the state system. Basically, the Tea Act and the Tea Board was the primary regulator through which tea was being produced and sold in the market as such. Labor in itself became a largely regulated body within the system, where what we call as the Plantation Labor Act of 1951 comes into place, and then labor could be used, only particular types of labor could be used. It had to be labor had to be within this thing, and the employer-employer relations were much more clearly defined, and the rights of the laborer through various means was being defined much more clearly through the act. As such, anyway, it had certain amount of entry-exit barriers. Who would be a laborer was not decided entirely by the market, but certain amount of regulatory structures came in between with regard to entry and exit of labor also into this thing. In the third phase, what we call as a post-liberalization phase, now the international competitor, the Indian tea started becoming a domestic product, in the sense like the share of domestic use starts growing much higher than the share of use that was being exported. So instead of being an export oriented crop, now it started becoming a domestic crop with a much larger domestic demand itself. Now this shift from being export oriented to domestic demand, that shifts that created a lot of shifts with regard to the nature of production, the nature in which the labor was being used, and the institutional mechanisms also. For instance, the domestic market, the domestic market, the purchasers or what we call as the buyers of tea for tea processing, or in other words, the tea processing industry and the growing farms.
So Binod, are you on the fourth slide only, or its slide's not moving?
I'm on the fourth slide. I have not moved.
Okay. Yes. Fine.
Yeah. So basically, that we are talking about certain domestic oligopolistic market for output starts growing in the economy, while at the same time, labor from being a competitive, from being a regulated market, it is becoming operating in an open, competitive, or in other words, a flexible labor market starts developing around tea labor itself. And the institutional arrangement is through various forms of market disciplining. And this is what I'm going to discuss actually. What are the how in open competitiveness and flexible market for labor is developing within the tea sector in all over India, and what are the institutional arrangements that is coming up for creating this particular labor market different from the labor market that existed maybe before liberalization. So that's the focus of the thing. Now, but the okay, so I think I don't need to discuss this. Before we go into discussing the structure and of the labor market and employment within the tea sector, labor being a derived demand, the structure of labor would be largely the growth, the composition of all of it would be largely derived from the structure and composition and the growth of the sector itself, or the output growth itself. So a little bit time I will spend on the growth and growth patterns in the sector as such. This is shows the output growth and composition of tea output during the period 1947 from the pre-independence period, from the independence period till 2022. As you can see, the total output of tea in 1,000 kilograms had increased from being around to about 200,000 kilograms. It has been continuously rising. It has only during the 2020 to 22 period, that's the only period there has been some form of stagnation in production. Otherwise, production of tea continued to increase throughout the period as from the entire period. So a large growth in output, and this output growth could occur. Mainly, any output growth and output can occur because of two factors. One is extension of the area under cultivation of tea, in this case tea, or you can have more intensive production as such, right? So these are the ways in which it can increase. But increase in tea area under tea has been very limited. It has been only because of productivity growth that has been occurring for quite some time. This particular graph, I'm not able to show this graph, but towards the end of the slides, I would show that actually the domestic, when I'm discussing something else, I will show that the domestic share of tea demand has been increasing and the export itself has been declining over here. This slide is not here, but I'll be able to show this in a later part of this particular slide. Now, even though the total output has been increasing, since the share of exports has been declining and the domestic use of domestic demand for tea has been increasing, and this can be seen, this shift from exports to domestic demand is also coinciding with the variety of tea that is available or in demand or that is being produced in the country also. The CTC variety, the orthodox variety, the green variety, and the leg cut variety. These are the various types of tea varieties that are produced in the country. And as you can see, between 61 and 91, the total volume of the total share of output that was coming under orthodox production had declined from 57% to just 18.7%, and further by 2022 it has reduced to just 9.7% or 10% as such, right? And the decline has been on the other hand, the CTC route that has increased from 34% to nearly 90%. So roughly about 90% of all tea that is produced in the country has shifted from the orthodox variety to what we call as the CTC variety, right? But this shift, if you look at this large shift has occurred both in North India, what we call as the North Indian regions where tea production takes place, as well as in South India also. Now, in North India in 61, 1961, about 43% of all tea consisted of what we call a CTC tea. But by 2022, it was 91%, and Orthodox had declined to just 7%, about 8%. And in South India, which it was only 4% CTC in 1961, which increased to about 80%, roughly about 80% by 2022. On the other hand, Orthodox had declined from 94 to about 20%. Now, this is a big shift from Orthodox tea to CTC shift. The CTC shift is those who are familiar with tea, they would know this thing, that the Orthodox tea production, it is the Orthodox tea is the one that used to go through the export route, and CTC tea is the one that is used largely in the domestic market. So as the shift from exports to domestic use started increasing, the demand for the production of Orthodox tea itself started declining, and the share of CTC starts increasing also. Now, CTC and Orthodox has a difference, that one of the primary differences is in the way in which Orthodox tea is much more labor intensive compared to CTC tea, and CTC tea is capable of being mechanized also compared to Orthodox tea, because Orthodox tea is basically hand plucked, and it has to, the processing also is done largely through human interventions as such, but CTC has a much larger share of mechanization. So as you could see this thing, that the way in which output production takes place, the export demand, as the export demand starts falling and domestic demand starts rising, the way in which the composition of tea itself starts shifting, and the way in which the labor demand also starts, the demand for labor itself starts showing differences as such. Now, the total area under area under tea between 1947 and till about the period about 2000, there was a kind of a gradual increase. But between 2000 and 22, the rate at which this has been growing has been more or less stagnant. But there has been some rise. And if you talk about it, there is some rise in the total area under tea production as such. But if you look at between North India and South India, most of the area, though the area has been expanding, the expansion has been more or less even, both in the northern and the southern regions, such that the shares continue to be more or less stable. About 80% of all tea is produced in North India, and about 20%, roughly about 20% in the southern parts of India as such. Now, coming to the state-wise distribution of land under tea, if you look at currently, if you look at roughly about between 1961 and 2022, about roughly about more than 75% of the tea was being produced in just two states, that is Assam and West Bengal. And Assam consists of about more than 50%, about 56% of all land under tea, and that has been increasing as well. The share of total land under Assam, or under tea in Assam, has increased from 49% to about 56%. In West Bengal, there has been some marginal decline. The share, there was a marginal decline from 25% to 24%. The share in this thing. But overall, if you look at the land under tea, you can see that in West Bengal there has been a rise from about roughly about 80 to 83,000 hectares of land under tea. It has increased to 138,000 hectares of land under tea. It has been increasing, but the share has fallen marginally. The tea under in the southern parts is largely concentrated in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, and you can see this thing. There has been, in Kerala there has been substantial decline, and in Tamil Nadu there is marginal increase, but more or less stagnant. So tea production is largely concentrated in the northern India, and especially in Assam as such. Now, a big shift that I think so Dr. Hanan is going to spend some time later on. So the one big shift that we have seen is with regard to the shift from Orthodox to Green Orthodox to CTC tea, and also the shift from domestic to export to domestic this thing. And another big shift that we see along with these big shifts that we have talked about in the output sector or the production sector is the shift in the farm size as such. Now, what we call as big growers and small growers, tea cultivation, after 25 acres, we call them as small tea growers, and anything bigger than small 25 growers, the tea board calls them as big growers. Now, the share of land under what we call as big growers or organized growers as such, that has been declining throughout this period, and the small tea growers have been increasing. There is some disturbance here. Now you can see this thing in North India. The share of big growers was roughly about 89%. Yeah. Which has declined to 69%. At the same time, by 2022, the small tea growers has increased from 11 to 31%. In South India, there has not been much of a big shift from the big to small, but the small growers were already in large in size by 1999. So about roughly about 40% of the growers were small tea growers in 99. They still continue to be in that particular place. About 40% of them continue to be small producers. So in southern parts of India, small tea growers was already a feature by 1999. But during the entire period, North India has been seeing a shift towards from big growers to small tea growers. So we have shift from export to domestic. We have shift from orthodox to green, and now we have a shift from big growers to small growers as such. So, and the land expansion, I don't think we need. It just shows that the growth in small tea growers has been much faster than the large growers. Now, if you look at the total increase in output, as I was starting, total increase in output can occur because of either expansion of area or because of expansion of yield as such, right? Now, as I had shown that there has been some expansion of area in the under tea throughout India, but largely for more so in case of Assam and West Bengal and such. But if you look at the yield that has been, the yield per hectare or the intensity product, what we call the contribution of intensive production to the total output as such, that can be measured using yield. That can be seen that in the period when from 99 to roughly about 2000, mid of 2000, 2007, 8, that there was some kind of a stagnation in the production yield as such. But thereafter, there is some rise, a general rise in the overall yield as such. But the rise in yield, if you look at, you can see this thing. There are three lines over there. One is for the all India, one is for the South India, and one is for the North India. Right now, the stagnant period, what we call as the stagnant period during this particular phase, we can see that it is in the southern parts of India that the yield stagnation has taken place largely in the southern parts, without much of a change as such. But it is in the northern parts that we do see a kind of a rise in the yield from 2000, at least from 2010 onwards. There is an overall stagnation till middle of 2000s, but then the rise in yield starts picking up only after 2000, roughly about 2010 or so, and largely from the northern India. So, in terms of the production structures and the demand structures, we have seen two things. Basically, we saw shift from the big shifts in terms of exports, in terms of the type of output that is being produced with the land. The type of land size that is in that under production, and the yield as well as the land, what we call the proportion of land under north and south as such, right? Now, given this background for the production and demand for the nature of demand for tea and the production structure of tea, let's now look into the labor market or the employment conditions within the tea itself. Now, the employment numbers that we have generated it from two sources. Some of it is given from Tea Board, but to a large extent, we have depended upon the periodic labor force surveys and the employment and unemployment surveys. As we would know, these surveys are not aimed at generating numbers for small crops under very small areas when you're looking at the national level as you're representing representing surveys, right? So we have generated the estimated numbers from these PLFS and employment and unemployment.
Binod, your slides are not moving. Slides.
Yeah, I'm just going to those things. But these numbers, we should be kind of using it in. There are some fluctuations in these numbers. It is basically probably because of the very small samples that come into the national sample surveys from periodically from the with regard to the plantation census. So we can see that the numbers kind of shifts largely over here. These numbers, what are written on the y-axis, are in lakh. So you had in thousand, 10,000. That is what it is, right? 1,000, 10,000. So you can see this thing, the numbers kind of shift over here, but roughly it is, the numbers are showing is roughly around, since 2017-18 at least, we can say roughly about 3 lakh to between 2.7 and 3 lakh workers. That is the kind of thing that we are able to see over here, total number of workers. But there is the proportion of males and females within is marked in the different colors over here. The data seems to the PLFS data seems to show that the proportions are even, with some rise for females over the period of time in 2017-18 compared to 2011-12. The share of females seems to have increased in 17-18, 18-19, and 19-20. In 2011-12, we had a larger share of females, but that seems to have been declining over. Now, the proportion, just as what we have shown in terms of output of the total tea employment in the country, a large proportion of them are in Assam, roughly accounting for about 55 to 60%. Then followed by West Bengal, roughly about 30% as such, and the remaining in the other southern states as such. Right now, the important point to note over here is that between 2004-5 and 2019-20, there is some rise in the employment in tea, in the tea sector in Assam. In West Bengal, the numbers are roughly about 34 to 30% as such. Between 2017 and 18 and 18-19, the numbers are showing that it is dropped suddenly and then it is risen suddenly. I don't that these are data errors rather than numbers that are shifting up so much. I would say that roughly about 30%, 34% was there in West Bengal. The trends as such may not be seriously taken. The composition may be roughly about 30%, and the Assam would be about 60% as such, and the rest of the country remaining roughly about 10% of the total employment. So these two states, West Bengal and Assam, together consist of most of the employment in tea sector as such, right? Now, share of female workers within it's a very important aspect of our this thing of female workers in the tea sector. It is because of the fact that of course tea plucking as conventionally has always been the domain of female employment as such, but as we are seeing that over the years it is even in other sectors of tea, females are becoming part of an important source of employment as such. Now, the share of female workers in the tea sector in Assam, for example, 2011-12, there were only 38%. Roughly, they count about 56%. Now, generally, if you look at any of the other states also, you do see this thing. There is a larger rising share of female workers compared to 2011-12. If you keep 2011-12 as the base year, there has been some rise. Now, for example, in Assam, it was 38% by 56%. In Kerala, it was 20%, 21%. It has increased to 57%. Tamil Nadu from 47 to 59, and West Bengal from 42 to about 53%. In general, there seems to be a rise in the share of female workers, even in a sector where already a large share of workers were female workers. A second important trend that we see with regard to employment, apart from the gender division, is the nature of employment. That is, if you divide the workers in terms of self-employed, regular, and casual wage employment, we do see this thing, an interesting trend, that is the slow increase in the share of self-employed workers and a decline in casual wage employment and a kind of a rise in the regular wage employment. The self-employed, which was about 7%, seems to have increased to about 14%, some increase. Regular wage employment, which is about 47%, it seems to have increased to anywhere between 65 and 75%, roughly about 60% maybe, but seems to have increased from 2004-5 compared to this period between 2017, 18, 19. Now, casual wage employment on the other hand had declined from about 45% to about 25 or roughly about 20%. So, two important trends that we are seeing is there is increasing share of females in terms of gender. Secondly, the other trend we are seeing is that there is a rise in self-employment and there is a rise in regular wage employment. Now, the rise in self-employment is explainable because of the rise in the small tea growers. What we had shown earlier, that there is a shift from big growers to small growers. Small growers are largely either self-employed or small entrepreneurs appointing more number of wage employment. And you would find that a large number of these workers are self-employed. They would be working in their own farms, therefore they would be counted as BC. So this number of employers or self-employed people within the tea sector is also increasing. And then there is also this rise in regular wage employment within the tea sector as such compared to casual wage workers. Now, this is a big shift from regular to casual wage shift, and also the rise of self-employment is understandably it is because of the small tea growers that is increasing. But along with that, the rise in regular wage employment and not that of casual wage employment, that is interesting to see because one would expect that once your tea sector is deregulated and it is possible for you to at least though theoretically one is not allowed to, at least in practice you do see that large number of workers actually could work in casual wage sector. Increasingly you are seeing actually there are more regular wage workers rather than casual wage workers in the sector. But that's interesting. It is because it is actually a gendered nature of employment that is going on in the tea sector actually. If you look at this classification of self-employed, regular, and casual wage workers, and then classify them further into male and female, we do see this thing that the rise in self-employment is largely a male story. The increase is the share of self-employed in the tea sector basically is increasing among males, which was only 7%, which has increased to about 26% by 2019-20, right? And the rise in regular employment is actually among the females rather than in the males. Of course, a regular male employment was about 53 to 60% and all. But that remains more or less constant, except for the error year 2018-19. Otherwise, you would see that roughly about 53 to maybe about it ranges between 53 and 60 and all those things, right? But if you look at female employment, that has increased. Irregular wage employment has consistently increased from 40 to 61%, then 74%, and then you have at least 65%. So regular employment seems to be increasing for females, and self-employment seems to be the story for the male employment. Now, what is happening in the field is probably something like this, that you have large number of small tea growers coming up all over the region, especially in the northern parts of the country, newly arising small tea growers. And within these small tea growers, there is a set of, rather than casual wage employment who used to go and visit large estates, a set of people, mainly women, are becoming a regular part of the regular wage workforce into small tea growers. So that probably is the story that seems to be emerging. Dr. Abdul, how much time more do I have? Hello?
I think another 2-3 minutes you should wind up.
Okay, I'll take another two or 3 minutes and then I will.
Right,
okay.
right.
So there is a story about the plantations, what is happening within the plantations. I will just take it through it quickly. The story is roughly this. During question hours, I can explain, take more time on this thing. But the fact is that the number of plantations, estates. Now, what I was talking till now was the overall tea sector, but now focusing on the estates alone, what we see is that the number of estates that has been reporting their compliance with regard to the period, what we call as the Plantation Labor Act 51, that has been declining. The number of estates which are reporting, that has been declining over a period of time. From some roughly about 80% of them were reporting in the 2000, by 2051 to 2015, only about 65% of them were reporting. When the reporting declines, it also means that your compliance to period the PLA also would be falling. So your compliance, there is a possibility that the compliance to the PLA Act is falling over time. And in this sector also, you do see this thing that the share average daily employment per plantation, the percentage share of women has been rising continuously. The total employment within the sector, as you can see, it has increased from 2007 to 2015. It has been not increased, you could say. There has been, in 2000, it shows a large number of somewhere around 700,000 workers as such, but then uh, by 2015, the number of workers has kind of stagnated around 650 or so. But within this declined, within this lower number of workers within the estates, a larger share of becoming are women. So there is increasing feminization of employment, both in the small T sector as well as in the estate sector. That seems to be the story. And in the small T sector, the ownership of probably the ownership is lying with the males and the male owners as STGs and females as workers over there. In the estates, the number of workers are declining in general in the estates, but within the workers, a larger share of them seems to be females themselves. Now, if you take we don't have a productivity measure as we are not able to get a productivity measure, but roughly taking from the available data, just to get a sense about what is happening to productivity or what is happening to per worker productivity, we do this kind of a measure, the total output divided by the average daily employment. And this is the trend that we see, which we had seen earlier also. Between 2000 and 2010, the output per worker or per daily work, that has been stagnant. But since then, there has been a sharp rise between 2010 and 20 years. So generally, the labor productivity has been rising. I will not spend time over here. The labor per unit of land has been declining, and the share of domestic sales is rough. This is the table that I was talking about earlier. A large share, about 70 to 71% of the total sales is currently in the domestic sales, not in the export market as such. Labor productivity has increased from about 700 to 1049 per kg per worker as such, and labor per unit of land, that's the amount of labor that is being used, that is also seems to be declining as such. Now, just to give a comparison between, because as we know from theory, we learned that wages and productivity are comparable. Just to show this thing that labor productivity has been increasing, but there has not been much of a commensurate rise in labor wages that is given. While labor productivity starting has increased by 1 to 1.4, the rise by 1.4. During the same period, both regular and wage employment, you can see they have not been able to increase at 1.4, but they have been, in fact, in 17-18 for male regular wages have fallen. Female regular wages, it has stagnated. Now, it is important to see this part that female regular wages, as you can see, if it was 1 rupee in 2004-5, in 2019-20, it was only 0.86. And for male regular wages, it is only 1.04. If it was 2004-5, it was 1. Now, casual wages, it has increased from 1 to 1.42, and females also casual wages increased from 1 to 1.35 as such. Now, the point here that I'm trying to make is that we had seen earlier that female employment was increasing and female regular wage employment was increasing. But when the regular wage employment is increasing, we can see that the regular wages of these workers has been declining, and it has fallen below casual wage workers. In other words, what we are seeing over here is that we are seeing feminization of low wage regular work in the tea plantations over there. And as you can see, productivity continues to increase from 1 to 1.7 to 1.3. In other words, there is a widening gap between productivity and wages also. And this widening gap in productivity and wages is mainly is achieved through appointment of a larger share of females and providing them with regular employment at lower wages. Let me just keep all these things. These are furthering the same argument which I have just told now. And how this is made possible, I have given some evidences of how things are taking place in this thing. How flexible one is able to bring in more flexibility. These arguments I will take up when we have time to discuss further of these things. Okay, let me just go to the conclusions over here. So there is substantial output growth that is going on there is reasonably robust growth in the output in T sector assets. Employment growth is also reasonably good growth that you're seeing. There is increasing regional concentration in the northeastern part, especially Bengal and Assam. Then female employment is becoming more prominent. There is a shift from regular labor markets to flexible labor markets in the system. But at the same time, the flexible labor market would mean now that you are able to appoint for longer terms women with lower wages assets. Now, the labor process, I have not discussed that, but it's a way in which labor marketing discipline, labor disciplining mechanism is taking place in the market as a disciplining mechanism through which labor process is being defined in the T sector as such. I will stop here. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I will, when there is an opportunity to answer more questions, I will answer that also. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Professor Binoj. I think you have covered most of the internal stories, and particularly the major shifts are taking place from production types of productions, and also should I put my video on? Yeah, I think so. Types of production. Firstly, the major shift which you have said from the CTC, from orthodox to CTC, and including the domestic demands. You have also said some of the major points of the concentration where the production is coming today, from the post-independence to the contemporary during the deregulated period. You have also mentioned how the typology of employment is happening in times of NSS classifications, particularly self-employed, regular employment, and the casual workforce, and connected through this post 90s, particularly the upcoming the small grower sectors. You have also said the wage rates, how the regular wage rate are almost stagnant, whereas casualization is taking place. Along with this, the casual workforce, the wages are increasing. So, with this, some of these backgrounds, I would be opening the house for 5 minutes quickly. First round of questions to Professor Binoj directly, and the house is open. In the meantime, I would also place a record that we have also one of the prominent participant, the president of All India Small Tea Growers Associations, Sri Bijay Gopal Chakraborty, he has joined us. And also one of the media person whom we invited, Manas Banerjee, who is also here with us. Since we are discussing something relating to the North Bengal, so both of them will be important if they can light also. So along with them, I open the house to put the questions to Professor Binoj, and we'll take roughly 4 or 5 questions. Yeah. Now the house is open. Yeah.
Yes. Good afternoon, Dr. Hannan and Dr. Binod, for inviting me in this important webinar or virtual meeting related mainly to the workers. So the data which just we have seen, it's very old data. I think 2020, but I think there is no concrete data related to the employee, the female or male, to the T-board. Only T-board has some data that 3 lakhs workers are engaged in in Assam, and something total 10 lakhs workers, permanent and temporary, are engaged in tea plantation. I think there should be a data, concrete data of the tea plantation. But one thing is that government of West Bengal, I think 3 years back, before COVID, they have they make a baseline survey of the each garden, 400 plus garden in West Bengal. So I have no idea about that. The Assam state has the same or not, or Tamil Nadu or Kerala is not. So data is the main factor in any types of developmental issue by the government. But one important thing is that I want to share with all of you that being a permanent invitee member of the Tea Board, because I am representing the Small Tea Grower Association, SISTA. It's a only national platform consisting of 11 state federation bodies and representing more than 3 lakh of small tea growers who are contributing 52% of the national tea production. That government
I think we have lost him.
Has introduced a new scheme. It's a big thing for everybody. 300 something for the West Bengal workers. There are so many social welfare schemes engaged with this education, health, and etc. etc. Already, Assam government state level, the advisory committee they already formed and they already started the work. And Tea Board will monitor all the works, and the finance is ready. So I think it will be a big game changer for the tea industry in near future, because all the time the tea garden owners, mainly the big owners, they are claiming that their main costing goes to the health, education, etc., medical. So I think it will be a cushion for them in the near future. But it is true. In the slide we have seen that in the small tea sector, I am telling you one thing, which is most remarkable in terms of West Bengal. In West Bengal, in small tea growers, from 5 acres to 10.12 hectare, the trade union is very much active, and we as a small tea grower, we have to sign the agreement with the trade union C2, that means CBMU, Tinamul Cha Shramik Union, and BJP Union, and Congress INTUC. So we have to sign. Last year we had the agreement of wage agreement. Now in Bengal the wage is 225, just lesser than the big garden. It is big garden is it is 250. But it is true that in 75 to 80% cases, the small tea growers are themselves engaged with their own plantation, because the land the land size is very less than 1 hectare. But the big size, that means 15 bighas or 5 acre, 6 acre, 7 acre, 8 acre, 9 acre, there is a engagement of workers. So there is a trade union is very much active in particularly in Bengal. But in Assam, there is no trade union activities in small tea sector. And in Kerala, I think small tea growers, their size also very tiny. In Kunur area, that means Nilgiri, tiny. So there is no, I think there is a scarcity of workers there. And now they are adopting the mechanization. Gradually here also there is a very scarcity of the worker. We are also adopting the mechanization. But as a man from the tea locality or the tea community, because I am from Jalpaiguri. Jalpaiguri is a traditionally tea district having the legacy of 150 years of Duars tea. I have seen one thing is that if any tea garden will be closed, that time the female workers, they will face a miserable condition, which I observed, because they have to settle in their own home because children are there. But the male workers, they have to go to they used to go to Kerala and other places for their work. But these female workers, they faced a lot um, economical crisis and other crisis also. So I think I request to Dr. Jose and our Anand also, a study should be uh, done that how can we prevent this worker from this miserable condition, because it's a regular phenomenon in our area. I have seen since last 10 days back, there is so many gardens of Andrew in our area, and I have seen they due to non-payment of the regular wages since last 45 days, they have to block the roads. And women, mainly the women, they lead this movement of the agitation. So gradually in Duarte side, we have seen that women workers, they are coming in front of the total agitation. Not only that, last year during the bonus time, Hanan, you know better than me, and Manoj,
Yes.
Mr. Manoj Banerjee also know that the local workers of the garden, mainly the women workers, they denied to take the agreement money. Even in Darjeeling area, there is some dispute till date of some 3% or 4% of bonus agreement, bonus amount. So there is a very ridiculous or some critical or turmoil situation in the tea industry, mainly in North Bengal area. Basically, I am staying in North Bengal or looking at North Bengal. So I think female workers or the workers is the main component of the tea ecosystem. So, and they are the asset of the tea industry. But I think some civil society bodies or government should come forward, and this Pradhan Mantri Shramik Prasthan Yojana, I think, will be the big change maker in the coming days of the tea industry. I think I request Dr. Hanan and Dr. Josh to please, you should also work on this Pradhan Mantri Shramik Prasthan Yojana. I will help you to give share the data of the tea board. So I think that is my little submission to you. And I think in near future, we will do the work for the small tea growers and that worker also to flourish our tea industry in a meaningful way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vijayda, enlightening some of the pertinent issues, and I think Professor Binoj can respond. But and then in the meantime, one or two questions, if any, coming from the house, and Dheeraj is also here, Professor Bimal is here, others also here. They can also put some light within 5 minutes.
We have 2-3 hands up. Professor Vishwanathan's hand is up. You want to call them?
I just mentioned if they have, they can ask. Otherwise, you can respond.
Dr. Vinod, it was a very excellent presentation. One clarification probably you may check is basically, when we did a study on fair trade in the case of some tea plantations, what we found was that men are actually more engaging into MGNREGA work. So they do not actually work in the plantations because of the wages are very low. If they go to MGNREGA work, they get a higher wage. So probably this point may be verified with respect to some of the plantations, and which may also lead to another situation of absenteeism, men absenteeism in the plantation, where men work in the MGNREGA plantations, MGNREGA work, and women get more intent. The feminization that you have argued, that becomes more substantiated.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, Dr. Shall I start answering?
Good afternoon, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Before we start, may I request everyone else to keep their mics on mute?
May I place my point, please?
আমাদের তো সব টাকায় ঢুকে গেছে, শুধু টিবোর্ডের টাকা ঢোকাই বাকি, আর
Dr.
ইনভেস্টমেন্ট
Hanan,
আজকে ঢুকে যাবে, তাহলে হয়ে
would
যাবে।
you request Dr. Vijay to switch the mic on mute? Yeah, I think we can start now. Yes.
Yes.
Hello. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Aditya Chakraborty, representing Indian Tea Association. So we are the representatives of the big growers, producers associations. I have one or two points on the presentation made. First of all, it was a very in-depth presentation. Congratulations on that. I would just like to highlight 2 points. One, like my colleague Mr. Vijay Gopal Chakraborty also highlighted, is that most of the data that were incorporated in the presentation, those are either till 2022 or maybe prior to that, 2017, or some few data were of 2017 as well. So what I would suggest is that to revisit the recent data as well, because there has been a lot of shift post COVID as well. So if we can see the recent data and then accordingly make a proper study on that, that I guess will give us a much more broader picture into it, and that will actually help us to move forward to find a workable solution. That is one thing. Regarding the slide on the productivity and the wages, I would also suggest, like my previous speaker, Mr. Viswanathan, was saying, to factor in productivity while we are saying, while we are talking about productivity of workers and all. I think the factor of absenteeism, which is a huge problem in tea industry right now, should also be factored in. And another thing is that regarding the wages also, I guess the data that has been collated and the matter has been accordingly analyzed, is because, see, there are wages. We are in constant consultation with the government and at a bipartite level as well. There are trade unions. We are constant consultation. Like Mr. Vijay Gopal Chakraborty rightly pointed out, that the cash wages, I repeat, the cash wages for the big growers are 250 rupees per day right now for the daily rated workers. But if you see, there has been, in the last decade, there has been a hike of almost 122% approximate in the cash wages. So when we are highlighting that there has been a stagnancy in the wages, I think that part also needs to be revisited. And with that productivity, the absenteeism should be factored in. Apart from that, the entire presentation was really very in-depth. And I think if the datas are somehow are once again looked into in a much recent perspective, we'll definitely go forward and find out another much more relatable working solution for the entire tea industry. Thank you so much. That was just a couple of points from my end.
Thank you, Aditya Chakraborty. Professor Binod, you want to respond this?
Yes, I'll quickly. I will respond to some of these questions.
Please.
Yes.
Yeah. So, firstly, thank you very much for giving your suggestions, comments to what I had presented. Thank you. I'm happy that you were able to appreciate what I had done. And both the interventions had highlighted, both Vijay ji and Aditya ji, they both had highlighted the issue of data. And I completely concede that there is a problem with data. The problem starts with the relevant data is available. It's not available from the keyboard. Whatever data is available from the keyboard, we have tried to collate it. But what is available with the keyboard, there are limitations to what is available. There are huge data gaps in between. We were able to get whatever is available from the keyboard we have collected. Then what we have used is the periodic labor force surveys or the employment and unemployment surveys, which are, these surveys are not meant to be used for understanding small areas of cultivation, because this is for the entire country, looking at all types of employment. We have tried to
Right.
get some numbers from here.
Okay.
So the data problem is real. I think so. We need to work it out. There should be a, I mean, as Vijayji had already said, I mean, data is an extremely important thing, and unless until we address that issue, we will not be able to see how things are working. So I completely
Absolutely.
agree with the
Absolutely.
data issue. We need to work that out. We need to find a lasting solution for these kind of crops, that data issues there. Now, in passing, let me also say this is an opportunity about the data. We at the National Research Program on Plantation Development, NRPPD, we have developed now a database for all the major crops, that is tea, coffee, rubber, and spices, that is available through the boards. What the tea boards are giving, or tea board, coffee board, rubber board, spices board, all of them, what their annual reports or tea statistics or whatever reports are available, we have compiled all these things. These are available. This is now digitized, already digitized. It is, we have made it online also. We have not made it public. We will be making it public in the next few days. It is undergoing some revisions, but it will be soon coming out. So that's it about the data part. So thank you for raising that particular thing. The other comments about absenteeism, what Professor Vishwanathan had raised about men going for NREGs and absenteeism. Yes, I think so that there is a problem there. NREGs wages being more attractive than tea work in tea. There is a problem there. Even though we can say that now NREG is giving higher wages, so people are moving. NREGs is supposedly at the minimum wages of that particular state or particular region. Now, if the plantation wages are not attractive, such that people are going for, men are going for NREGs work or any other work, and plantation doesn't attract enough workers, it is a signal about the kind of wages that is being paid over there. Now, so there is an issue. There is a concern over there. The concern is that despite wages increasing, maybe it has increased a lot, but that increase is not sufficient to attract workers. Now, the problem, not inability to attract workers. When we go for field surveys, either in coffee or tea or any of these places, we often hear this thing. It's becoming difficult to get workers. Dearth of workers, or workers are not. One is not able to get enough workers. Labor supply is actually shrinking. Now, one could say that labor supply shrinking is it that labor is not available, or is it that labor is not available at the rate that one is ready to give? So that is a problem over there. And the productivity question about labor absenteeism, I think that is also a serious concern, that absenteeism creating productivity related issues. The way in which that we have calculated, again, I must say this thing, in that absenteeism will not be a problem, because we are only counting those numbers where people are actually present over there. But I must say this thing, completely concede that those numbers that we are using about the number of days people are working and how many hours, how many people are working, these numbers are estimates. These are not directly collected from the field. These are samples and then estimated for the entire country. And it is using very small samples, so it could have a lot of problems with that. I completely concede with it. Yeah, anyway, the comments, I really thank you for the comments. I will, whatever can be updated, I will be updating in terms of data. But we need to consider, and also the studies that Vijayji was talking about with regard to small tea growers. I think that's an important concern. Women's employment issues and wages, that's also an important concern. These are concerns that we would like to take it up in future under NRPPD, or in with the cooperation of people who are there presently right now in listening to us. Thank you very much. We will continue. If there is time in the end, we can discuss further on this paper as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Binoj. I think I would like to add one point relating to the data, whatever the presentation has taken, because the commodity board probably have not been in a position to supply the data. The last T statistics which we found in 2007, and thereafter with a gap of 15 years, and 2019 T board has published one of the T statistics. Again, that was before COVID. So after that, we are not getting any kind of T statistic from the T board of India. And whatever Professor Binoj has estimated based on the sample survey and the periodic labor survey, and to some extent the situational analysis of some of the data which is being highlighted by the keyboard time to time. That was the shortcoming. So quickly, we have other two presenters. So thank you, Professor Binod. So we'll go to the next presenter. I would request Dr. Bikas to remain with 20 minutes of presentation so that we can take up questions. And I hand over to Bikas now. Bikas, am I audible? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
So just please let me know if my slides are moving.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Professor Binoj Abraham from CDS and Dr. Abdul Hannan from Sikkim University. This webinar we started talking about the different initiatives of NRPPD that has been taking place in time to time. But I would also like to add here my own point. Apart from organizing different events, NRPPD has also shaping the discourse of and also the careers of very early career researchers like me. So I started my work on tea plantations as a PhD student, being from tea garden in North Bengal. And also I happened to attend one of the capacity building training program in 2023, and thereafter the way Professor Binoj and CDS this programs has shaped and guided as a mentor. So we are really grateful for that, and I'm hoping for greater collaborations. Regarding this presentation, I think there's some disturbance. Hello.
One second.
Actually, Mr. Joseph,
Hello.
Mr. Joseph, can you mute?
Joseph, is there?
Hello.
Webinar is
Can you please put your microphones on mute?
I think Mr. Joseph. Mr. Joseph, can you?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Dr. Bikas, please go ahead.
Oh, I think we have lost because Dr. Bikas, can you hear us?
I think he lost the connection. I think
Yeah.
he must be trying. Just wait. Because could you hear us?
I think he will rejoin.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello,
Yes.
Yes.
Please go ahead because we can hear you.
What I was saying was it audible?
Yeah, we heard till now. We have missed a little bit, I think so.
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay, so what I'm trying.
Your slides are not being there.
So what I.
Yep, your slides
Okay,
are not
now
there.
it's there. No.
No, it's not there.
No, slides are not there.
You got disconnected. I think you have to again set the slides.
I'm really sorry for this technical glitch. Can you hear me, sir, now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm
It's
really
late
sorry for.
slides. Yeah, it is showing start. Yeah, now it's visible.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
coming now.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I was saying very briefly, Professor Binoj has covered a very fair uh, amount of what I meant to say in this introduction section. So he has really made my life very easy by putting a very solid foundation to my presentation. And I was summarizing what he has said. So we have, after economic reform since 1990s, we have seen three major changes that Professor Vinod has rightly pointed out. One is from very large and organized tea plantation to a shift to a small tea growers, and then from an orthodox kind of tea production to a more CTC oriented production, and then a shift in market from an export based market to a very domestic kind of market. And what happened after this restructuring of entire tea plantation, what we started witnessing what happened to the estate mode production. So in early 2000s there was a serious crisis that the majority of the tea estates in the Duars region have started facing. And as a consequences of all these events, I'm not going into the greater detail as it was already covered in the previous presentation. So a number of several tea plantation, the big and organized tea plantation in northern Bengal, especially in the Duars region, started getting closed, or either being closed or being abandoned by the management and the owners. So that has created a different unemployment issue and issues of livelihood. What our honorable chairperson from SISTA, Dr. Bijay Gopal Chakraborty, was also mentioning. So there was also happening a lot with these closed tea plantations, and this presentation will try to understand how this closure of the tea plantation has translated into the lives of the tribal communities who were engaged in the tea plantation, and also what are the new operational methods that were being adopted in these abandoned tea plantations. And towards the end we will try to advocate for a standardized operating framework of this for this abundant tea plantations. So to talk about very briefly this location, this presentation is a part of my previous study that I had submitted in the Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Guwahati. So this study looks into the two tea plantations in the Duars region, in the Alipurduar districts. Both the tea plantation, I'm not particularly mentioning the original names, but for the sake of this presentation, let's call it Rethi Tea Estate and Duars Tea Estate. So both the tea plantation are located in the
I think there's a network issue. We are
Yeah,
not
right.
audible.
Not audible. Because we can't hear you.
I think he must be facing network issue.
Yes, it looks like there is some network issue.
Yes. I think we can hold because for some time, and then can we start the third presentation? So by the time the network might be better. Is it all right?
It is, but we should inform him. We should inform him.
Yeah, we'll have to inform. Yeah. Because can
Please
you hear
ask him
us?
if it is okay, whether we can do that, whether he'll be able to get a better connection.
Yeah, that is also because he is in a high altitude in Kashmir.
And
Because I'm not getting network.
because, hello,
Yes, sir.
it got cut in between again.
Because what you can do, you can quickly show your slides. That will be better because you may get network problems, right? So quickly you can show the failed results.
Hello, because can you hear us?
I'm really sorry for this mishap. There's some issue with office internet today. So as I was saying, due to these closures of this plantation, it created a loss in the wages as well as the social security provisions, starting from housing, sanitation, access to subsidized food, hospitalization facilities, and early child care. So the tea plantations in North Bengal experienced a series of hunger death, as it was reported in different national and international media, and it also had a fair share of debate and discussion in Indian Parliament and the Legislative Assembly. So this rising unemployment in the tea plantations due to the closure has translated into different ways, as Professor Chakraborty was, as Vijay Gopal Chakraborty, Mr. Vijay Gopal Chakraborty was saying, that there was an increased out migration from these tea plantations, and in search of job, people tried to move out to different cities in the different parts of world. And as well as there are different migration of female migration also in nearby towns and cities to find household kind of employment jobs as a domestic help and others. And this shift in the mode of employment had also led to the women worker take up a lot of precarious kind of job, starting from sand mining and the stone quarrying in the riverbed as for a very minimum kind of wage and monetary support. And there is also an increase of dependency in forest, then sand mining. There's a very increase in the child labor. So what was happening due to this unsettled kind of, and due to this shift from a very settled kind of livelihood in the tea plantation, from this unsettling livelihood into the unsecurity in the sand mining sites, informal sector, and precarious nature of job, and due to the loss of access to healthcare services, which were exclusively provided by the hospitals and different supports mechanism in the tea plantations. So there was an increased number of hunger and starvation death in the tea plantation in the early 2000s. But if we see, it is not only a case, what I'm trying to summarize here, it was not only exclusively onto that period. If we see what is happening now also, even every other day there will be some news in the local medias that some plantation in the Duars region has started getting closed. So this closure of plantations are very frequent even now today. So these closures have one very striking characteristics. So some scholars suggest that these plantations are not actually closed, because declaring a plantation closed, you need to have certain kind of formalities. For means you have to put a lockout notice, you have to settle the wages or the bonuses or whatever kind of gratuity and other amounts of the laborers. But what the management has found a way, rather than formally declaring those plantation as a closed garden, they just simply ran away. And those kind of plantations, we started calling it abandoned plantation. And this abandonment without formally closing this tea plantation creates a lot of legal kind of binding for the state and government as well for reopening those two plantations. So it's a very sticky kind of situation. If you see, there are several incidents in the tea plantation of North Bengal just before of the puja or the Diwali bonus. That tea plantation, the management will easily go away by without just they will run away without formally declaring or settling the wages or the bonuses. So this is a very happening phenomena every other year or every other month, especially during the non-harvesting seasons. There will be a number of tea plantation which are getting closed. And again, the discussion which was happening earlier, there is absolutely no data which actually says which are the tea plantation when they are getting closed, what are the combined database, what are the number of people working there, and when they was get closed. And then, so there is not only getting closed, there this tea plantation will also reopens very soon. You will come to this. So what this previous slide we are trying to say, that there is a uh, increasing burden on the women workers, because primarily this tea plantation were sustained by the women labor force. So there is, as we have discussed, there is an engagement of precarious nature of work, and also there is a very casualization of workforce which is already happening in the tea plantations. After this abandonment, this women find themselves into more vulnerable positions. And also there are different studies like the study by published in EPW by Ghosh. It suggests that there is an increasing number of human trafficking from this abandoned and closed tea plantations as well. So as you see, these photographs I have collected during my field work. So women, or the former women workers of this tea plantation, they are collecting sand, or they're kind of collecting firewoods and trying to sell them in the market. So those kind of precariousness has induced by this abandonment and the closure of the tea plantation. Now what happened with the different atoms has been taken, as this has become a very vital issue in the news media and also in the political spheres. There was different claims and blame gaming was going on with different governments at power center and the state, and also different political organizations, that who will take the responsibility of reopening these gardens. But the technicality, there are a lot of technicalities in terms of the who owns the land, because it was a lease land, and who owns the property which was already built in those land. I am sure the Professor Hannan will take us through that discourse, because he was doing some serious research in these technicalities, and we had a discussion. And also, but there are attempts from the government, which plantations were closed for more than few years. The government tried to kind of take possession over this plantation and finding a new owner to open these gardens. But those were also seemed very not very fruitful attempt, because we see a lot of time it was reported that when government was trying to lease out that plantation to a new owner, when often the voice of the laborers and their representation like trade unions were not taken into account. And often, even in recent incidents in Duars, we have seen that even labor department doesn't know who is the new owner of this plantation, right? And what happened under political pressure or pressure from civil society organization, if a government finds a owner, and that doesn't guarantee that that owner will keep on running that plantation. They will just after a few months, there are several incidents that new owner has also escaped from that garden. So what is happening, there are several times there is a frequent changes in ownership and ownership. So ultimately, the settlement regarding wages, livelihood, and also the social security schemes are not often we see that are not essentially complies the guarantee that is given to the workers under the Plantation Labor Act. So the Plantation Labor Act often were kind of not taken very seriously from different stakeholders. So these situations, so this has been the story of the tea plantation, major a number of tea plantations. But if you ask me what is the exact number of the tea plantation which are closed at present day, it will be more than 8 to 9. But if you ask the official data, there are no data actually. So there are different civil society organizations which try to document this data. So but that was not very fruitful attempt. So what was happening in these two gardens that we started discussing about from the very beginning? So these two tea estate, Rethi tea estate in Birpara and Madarihat block was closed in 2004, and then Patabari tea estate in Kalchini block of Alipurduar district, though are closed in 2012. But after when we are doing a survey in fieldwork in 2023, what we have found a very interesting incident that due to some legal fight with the previous owner, the government were not able to find a new owner of these two tea estates. So what happened? The communities, the laborers in those two tea plantations who live in the plantations, they came up with the idea of reopening the garden and resuming work. So people said, if we don't go outside, or if we don't able to produce in this garden, even before COVID, that time after we are doing a survey after this COVID, even before COVID, we will die of hunger, so it was very essential that we get some kind of work in the plantation, because not everybody can go to in search of job to different cities, but that also needs some kind of social capital. So what they did, they came together and started cleaning and nurturing the garden for a few months, and then they started resuming the work, and they formed a committee. Those committees, they called it operation and management committee. Often we think that this operation and management committees, we think as a form of cooperative, but in reality these operation and management committees are not very kind of essentially follow the ecos of cooperative works. So if we see again, these committees, they what did they do? They pluck the tea leaves and they sell those tea leaves either to a bottle factory or to a middleman. They don't run the factories that owned by the plantations, but this formation of this OMC and operation management committee is again by the either it was dominated by the trade union leaders or the panchayat members or very politically influential groups within the community. So they have become a new kind of owner by replacing the previous one. And now the people, the tribal communities, especially the women, they find employment there as minimum as they 10 rupees per kilogram of tea leaves they pluck. And this entire management and selling and the profit share and other things is exclusively handled by the community, which is not very transparent. And these committees are exclusively formed by the men. So given the fact that women comprise a very large number of workforce, but these committees are against by exclusively dominated by men and the politically influential people. So anyway, having said that, this new form of operation also become a lifeline support to the people who couldn't migrate outside the tea plantation for various reasons. And so at the end of the day, if they pluck 20 kilo tea plantations, tea leaves, they earn 10 rupees per kilo, so to 200 to 250 rupees. But interestingly, this earning and this employment is restricted only to the harvesting season. So in harvesting season, again you are the laborers are unemployed, and people who get this employment in this new makeshift arrangement, so the people who were kind of engaged in cleaning and maintaining the garden during non-harvesting season without any kind of wage, so they give labor for 3 and 4 months without any wage, only they will get a chance to being employment during the harvesting season. And they earn only the daily wage. There are no kind of mechanism of social support or any kind of social benefits, maybe not up to the mark of PLA, but not any form. And what we have found, and also the studies by CEC a long time back, they also reported the similar kind of that there's a lack of transparency and a very alleged kind of corruption in this entire operation of operation and management committees. So I'll stop here in this last slide by saying that so there is always a debate and discussion around what is the future of the future of this so organized form of estate more tea estate. We have seen the discussion of Professor Binoj also, what he was suggesting with the data, that there is already a shift from organized state to organized form of tea plantations to a very small tea plantation growers. So there is a restructuring, and also scholars like Professor Khakha, they argue that there is a serious absence of developmental states, and so there is a need for restructuring the plantation. I hope we'll get into that debate. But what I also feel as a case study of this operation and management committees, we need a very standard operating framework to safeguard the rights and welfare of the laborers and the livelihood in the plantation communities. That there should be some form of equitable labor policies which safeguards this form of laborers as well, because plantation labor act only talks about the operational plantations. And also there should be a very form of fair wages and social security and some kind of legal protection to this entire new form of makeshift arrangement, and for the tea plantation as a large outside these also. So I think I'll stop because there's another presentation on the similar line also by Radali. We can take some questions from here.
Okay. Done, Dr. Vikas?
I'm very sorry for this technical glitch. There was some interruption in the flow. So yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Thank you, Dr. Vikas. Quickly, I just summarize few points that he has mentioned based on the field work. He has also observed that there is a closure and reopening of the garden is a very regular phenomena in the Duars or the North Bengal region, including the Darjeeling Hills. Similarly, he is also saying that labor is getting gradually dependent other than the tea. Basically, other natural resources, particularly the mining and forest-based economies, to supplement their income or supplement the seasonalities where there are gap is happening. He is also trying to say something that the existing form of closure garden and the operation management committee, which is also found to be a new form of extraction of the labor. So in these few points, I would quickly open the house. If there are some questions, you can put directly to Dr. Vikas, and we can within 5 minutes or 10 minutes we can wrap up, and so that we can go to the third presentation. So house is open for questions. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. It's really interesting. I'm from West Bengal. It's interesting to listen about what is happening in North Bengal. So you mentioned about women's worker in your presentation. So I was just wondering about that.
Excuse me, Simanjur Guhana.
Yes,
Could you introduce yourself also? That will be fine.
Yes,
So
sir.
that
Sir, I'm a PhD scholar from Center for Development Studies. I work in gender and labor economics.
Okay. Please go ahead.
So I was just wondering that you have mentioned about the exploitation of women workers in the North Bengal tea gardens. I was just wondering what are their roles in trade unions in North Bengal, and are they present in those unions? How are they functioning? So a little bit around that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, madam. This is a very excellent question. I actually I say it in a very kind of ironical way. See, tea plantations historically in North Bengal and Assam were dependent on the labor force of women. There is a very abrupt logic of nimble fingers. Scholars like Ashmita Sharma, they really criticize this entire idea that because quote unquote women have nimble fingers, they are more kind of appropriate to pluck the tea leaves. But when it comes to management, if you see what was happening before this closure, even in the colonial times, the voices of women in the larger decision making, you can say in the form of trade union, were completely absent. If you see now also, there are very rare cases when there is a representation from women's in any trade union, maybe from any kind of organization. There is hardly any. If there are some representation also, you can always ask that question: are they representing the garden? I mean, if you see, the tribal communities and the Dalits are the people who have been historically working in the tea plantation, at least in North Bengal. But if you see the trade union organization are largely dominated by very influential Bengali communities, not even the tribal workers. Even in case of men, the situation of men representative from tribal communities are gradually changing, but women's are still not in that nowhere, nowhere in even in the when it comes to the operational garden which are open. What is happening in the closed plantation in this entire form of operation and management committees, even there also there are the entire decision making process is by men. Even if you take the example of the plantation hierarchy, so at the bottom of that hierarchy there are laborers, on the above of the who are again Dalits and tribals. On the top of them there will be sub staff and then managerial staffs. If you see that hierarchy, that sub staff and managerial staffs, the sub staffs will be some influential tribal communities or the Bengalis, and then staff community will be Bengalis, and then top of that it will be again the elite class. But in that entire hierarchy, women are only confined to the labor class. You will not hardly find any women who is into the supervisory staff or sub staff or any form of operation or decision making within the employment structure also. So women are always at the bottom end in this, unfortunately, in the entire tea garden scenario. There are very good articles like Professor Ashmita Sharma, Priya Chatterjee. If you want to read, you can consult some of those literature. Yes, madam.
Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Okay. Any more questions? So if there are no
Hello,
questions, yes,
hello,
yes, yes,
hello, Vikas.
yeah,
Hello, Vikas.
yeah.
Very
Dheeraj, please go
nice,
ahead. Yeah.
nice presentation. I'm just trying to connect the previous presentation and Vikas's presentation with a common thread that is non-compile
Yes, sir.
compliances of the PLA Act 1951. In the previous presentation, Professor Vinos has mentioned that there is a gradual falling of non-compliances of the PLA Act by the most of the tea gardens in entire country, and especially in Bengal's context. And what is happening in your case is that since there is no garden owner, then there is nobody to talk about labor PLA Act and all. So in both the cases, there is a complete. It is not just abandonment of the tea owner, but abandonment of the state in complete manner. So
Yes.
my understanding, I will go beyond the plantation, the definition of plantation and the how plantation work. But my understanding is little bit in the area of the governance aspects. In with respect to the governance aspect of these things, of these abundant tea gardens, the uh, the so-called anarchist perspective is basically talks about the idea of cooperation and mutual aid. If you read Simon Springer and others, they talks about to fight neoliberalism might be the abandonment. I mean, in your case, the abandonment of the tea garden might be the mutual aid, and the anarchist approach might be a possible solution to that. I think more rigorous work need to be done to get a proper conclusion, but tea garden might be an important case to look into the idea of mutual aid and cooperation to fight these kind of things. But your reflection, I mean, the kind of case studies you are showing is showing a complete different story. And I will stop here and I will like to ask your input into that. Very briefly, I'm asking too many things.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I really wanted to reflect on some of the literature on anarchist view, like even the great book by Professor Scott, who recently passed away. Yeah, so I was also when I was studying this. This was not my exact focus of my PhD. I wanted on health, but in between these are some of the other observations which I presented today. But when I was trying to reflect on how to kind of contextualize this entire phenomenon, I was actually having a difficult time to contextualized theoretically, but then the literature on the anarchic state and mutual aid, cooperation, cooperatives, I had browsed through, but yeah, I'm still not kind of couldn't come to jump to any kind of conclusion. Maybe we can have a discussion on this, sir.
Yeah. Because there's one question, the Biswanathan sir has left. You can answer later on, but it is in the chat box, so we can
Okay.
take up this because the abandonment, whether it is happening or it has a regional concentration, something he is trying to know. So with the, we can take it at the end of the presentations or you
Yes,
want to
sir.
answer.
We can take it later also, but to very briefly, sir, there are no foreign plantations in Bengal now. But this abandonment incident, if you see, it's more indoors. There are several tea gardens. Professor Khawas has actually published a report on the abandoned plantations in Darjeeling. So there are several tea plantations in Darjeeling as well. One of our scholars, she was working in tea plantation with Professor Hannan in tea plantation, abundant tea plantations in Darjeeling as well. There are few incidents in Assam as well, so it's not very regional. And if you see literatures like Nielsen and Joseph, they try to talk about the closure of plantations in Kerala also. So it was not very regional, I would say. Yes, sir.
Sorry. With this, I think we will quickly go to the third presentation, and then we'll take the final discussion also. So I would request Radali to go ahead.
Hello. Excuse me, sir. May I
Yeah,
raise
yes,
one
please.
question?
Yeah, please introduce. Yeah. Vishwajit.
I'm Dr. Biswajit from Central University of Manipur.
Right.
My question is, to Dr. Vikas. I'm not in this field, means I have not done any kind of work in tea garden. Just I have, from my curiosity, I have gone through some literature where I find Sikh tea garden. Just I want to know from Vikas whether is there any specific difference between Sikh tea garden and abundant tea garden? What you are discussing in your discussion. So that is
So
my question. Thank you.
I think Professor Hannan can answer this question better. But yeah, Bishwajit is my friend who is teaching in Manipur University, Geography Department. Bishwajit, Sikh tea garden is a very categorical definition. To it is applicable for the tea gardens which are operational, also which are functioning. So that means that production is not very up to the mark, and so that you can claim some kind of subsidies and other kind of form of relaxation, maybe in terms of giving the amount of bonus that decided, the wages. So some kind of relaxation in terms of the governance as well, even when it comes to PLA. So yeah, it means that the garden is facing economic losses, and so they can claim for some kind of relaxation. The proper, I think, exact definition Professor Hannan can give you in a better way.
Let me respond quickly. These definitions like seek, abandon, and close. These are basically the closed garden. When we say, of course, there is no definition by the government. What happens is that in due course of time, there will be garden which are closed. But officially, if it is not notified, that means it will not be considered as a closed. So that means that there is a formal procedure. But from the government side, it has not been properly notified that or defined as per the governance part of it. But in the academic literature, some of the scholars trying to interpret it this way, that way. So we got the recently the last year, I think the SOP, particularly when it is more than 3 months. But we have seen in the Bengal's experiences and Assam's experience, there will be garden which are closed more than 2 years, 3 years, but it was never been officially closed, right? So those kind of a scenario, it can be equated as a term called transitional justice. a kind of a system by which you actually not in a position, and there has not been much of the work also by which we can categorize whether the governments come up with a kind of a concrete definition so that accordingly. But with the current notification of the last year, end part of the last year, government of West Bengal, that means any garden which is more than 3 months, that means the office of the district magistrate are entitled to notify and also bring out to the public notice, which was not the case. So now we have some documentary, that government notification by which we can think of in a way. But there are sick gardens which are also where the owner is not there. There is OMC, as because Dr. Vikas has highlighted, and OMCs are also a kind of a new form of extraction is being happening within the laboring community. Some are in the better off, and some are also being exploited within the operation management group of some of the gardens, which is available in the Darjeeling Hills as well as in Duars. We have the cases; those we go frequently to the field, we come across, but there is not much relevant literature as of now, so we can do more and more research onto that and come out with certain relevant data on this. Am I able to answer you, Vishwajit?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Vikas.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Vishwajit.
Thank you, Dr. Vikas. Nice presentation. You have covered many of the issues. Now we quickly go to the third presentation. Radhali, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Radhali, you can start. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Sir, is my screen visible?
No, it's not visible. Your name is visible, not your. If there is a PPT, we can't see the PPT.
Okay, sir.
Your PPTs are not visible, Radhali.
Yes, sir, I'm trying. Please give me a few minutes.
Okay, sure.
So in the meantime, let me give some advertisement for NRPPD. By the Radhali, please continue to put your PowerPoint. As soon as you put it up, I'll keep going.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, please try it. Please try. And I was just trying to say this thing that NRPPD, the National Research Program on Plantation Development, we try to do various things. One of the things that we are planning to do is this workshop, and which will also have a conference, an offline conference probably towards the end of this year. And we are all seeking your support in conducting this workshop as well as the conference that is coming up. Dr. Hanan would be very much actively involved in that. So if there are names that you can pass on, then it would be good. Gmail addresses, your Gmail addresses, if we can give, we will be able to share our call for proposals and other important things regarding to the plantation and NRPPDS. So please share your email IDs over here so that we can share our details also. I'll stop here. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Sir, is my screen visible?
Yes. The screen has come. No, yeah. You
Thank
go
you,
ahead.
sir. So I'm. Yes, sir.
Time you will have a 20 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. So I'm presenting on field evidences of closed tea garden, a case of Duar's region. So it is basically a case study of Red Bank Tea Garden. So this research is basically conducted for the partial fulfillment of my master degree level. Along with this village, we have also surveyed 25 more villages, but the data are under process. So I just want to continue. What Dr. Vikas has already highlighted, that the North Bengal tea economy is in crisis as there are sudden closure of the garden since 2000. And recently there was a report, 17th annual report 2023 to 2024 Tea Board of India. So in that report it was highlighted that 21 tea garden which are being closed or abandoned, and among them 18 tea garden are from West Bengal and 3 are from Kerala. So Red Bank Tea Garden is also one of the abandoned garden which was abandoned back in 1992, but like official closure was announced in 2013. So this is the study area. So Red Bank Tea Garden is falls under Banarhat block under Jalpaiguri district. It comes under Banarhat 2 Gram Panchayat. So neighboring villages are Ambari Tea Garden villages, Harital Tea Garden village, Daina Tea Garden village, Depara Tea Garden village. So in this region, the main sector of economy, primary livelihood depends upon tea economy. So for methodology, both primary and secondary data were utilized for this study. Though the primary survey was conducted in December 2023, but the structured study was started way before, 6-7 months prior. So we continuously engaging with the secondary data, and land use land cover map was prepared through visual interpretation from Google Earth imagery for November 2021, and on December 2023 we personally visited the field to cross verify the relevant data. So for field survey, there were 3 level of questionnaire. The first level was like village level. So village level questionnaires, it contained basically a history of the villages. So if focus group discussion was conducted with the elderly members who could give a clear background of the study area. Secondly, institutional survey. So for institutional level survey, we visited the institutional personally and interviewed the employees. And for household schedule survey, there was a structured questionnaire which contained questions related to their consumption level, their household assets, their employment pattern, etc. So for survey, a 5% sample survey was taken. So in my case, I have a total household of 907 as per the 2011 census. So based on that, 5% was taken, which is equivalent to 45 household. So this is the land use land cover map which has been prepared based on the visual interpretation from the Google Earth imagery. So the land use land cover is classified into basically 5 groups. Group 1 is net shorn area, plantation, built up area, fallow land, and open forest. So it can be observed from the map that the fallow land has dominated the village area. So this could be because the garden was closed for long. Through officially it was announced as closed in 2013, but in reality it was left abandoned back in 1992. So it was closed for more than almost 30 years as it reopened in August 2022. And the visual interpretation was done based on 2021 imagery. Also, as we visited field, as well as the present company were focusing on the replantation. So most of the land are still now it's fallow, even though they are replanting the tea sample. Secondly, the green area which is in the corner of the village boundary, it is actually Dina Tea Garden. So there might be little of digital error while plotting the village boundary. Secondly, in the second slide, I have shown a comparing the census data as well as Google Earth imaginary data for land use and land classification. So to be noted, there is no changes as per the census. There is no difference between the 2011 and 2001 data, though the garden was closed way back. Like in 1992, it got closed, but there is no updated data regarding the fallow land or relatable to the plantation changing in the plantation land. There was no relevant data. Uh, as we can see, in Google Earth imagery, according to Google Earth imagery, like there are the majority lands are dominated by the fallow land, like the agricultural land they have turned into the fallow land, but in the census there is no such update like made. Also I want to mention, like as per 2011 census, it has shown that net shown area accounts for 98.335% of the total geographical land of the village, but there is no agricultural land, as it is a like traditional plantation village where the primary activity was related to plantation, were plantation, and there was no such activity taken place. This is mapping of resources and locational analysis. So also we have like this location resource map is based on like both Google Earth imaginary, and also we have cross verified, like cross verified in during the survey. So there are 3 hamlet in this village. There are 3 hamlet. The first hamlet is Red Bank Tea Garden. The second hamlet it is Salbani, and the third hamlet is Surendranagar. So Red Bank hamlet is like most populous one, and the Surendranagar is the least populous one. So each hamlet has a primary school located in the hamlet. So there is only one. There used to be an company run hospital, but it got closed as the tea owner as the company was shut. So after many years, like during the lockdown, a sub center was established by the government, considering the health condition there. Also, also there is a Cha Sundri project, which is basically a government funded government funded scheme initiated by West Bengal government, where they are like allocating 319 number of single story dwelling houses with two two room two room, one veranda, one bathroom, and one kitchen. So coming to the demographic view of the village. So as the total population of the village according to 1991 census was 3492, which has further increased to 447, and later in 2011 it again increased to 4114%. So from the population figure, it is quite clear like females are the dominant sex in the village. And regarding the literacy rate, rate is lower. Mm.
Yes, Radali.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the literacy rate of the village is like very low. It was like 29.38% in 1991, and later 2001 it was improved to 43.41%, and in 2011 it was further increased to 56.47%. But still, it's lower than the district average literacy rate. Also, the when we like physically verify when we physically interviewed the institutional employee, they also raised one major concern, like the dropout level is very high. And parents mainly wonder, like even if parents like mainly wonder like children to engage in plantation and to supplement their income, like boys mainly, even though are like 18, lower than 18 plus, they uh, they migrate to like other places to supplement income for job opportunities. The third slide, this slide shows the social composition. So the village is a dominant tribe, dominant in scheduled tribes. The main tribe are like Orao, the Munda, and Santhal, followed by general population, and lastly the scheduled caste population. The scheduled tribe are, they are basically from the Christian. They follow Christianity. There are also population followed by Hinduism. The village also has population who follow Buddhism, and a least portion also follow Islam. So the closure of the garden and resulting livelihood changes. So the tea garden has a long history, as it was operated back in 1962 post independence, and from then onward, and from then in 1992 it was frequently closed in the sense it was abandoned. It was there was no prior notice regarding the closing of the garden. It was just abandoned, and from 1992 to 2013 onward the garden was left abandoned. And after in 2013 a official notification from the like tea board of India, it came like the garden has been closed, and due to expiration of the lease, and it was handed over to West Bengal government. So after like almost 9 years, in 2022 the garden reopened. So during the closure, when the garden was full fledged in back in 1992, so the company used to provide like basic amenities such as semi furnished, semi pakka house, drinking facilities, welfare regarding health facilities, etc. But after closure, all these facilities were ceased. So during the like closure, there was a like rift between the laborers there, where like mostly they were left unemployed, and as female population are mostly engaged to the tea garden, and they also have a secondary option like they can go for as a biga or seasonal laborer in the peak season to the nearby gardens. But the like men were mostly were left like unemployed. So what they do is like the closure acted as a push factor for the villagers, for mainly for the male population. So they migrated to like other urban areas for like employment to supplement the household income. Also, so during the closure, as it has a natural boundary which is Dina River, so basically they also turn toward the river related activities such as like carrying boulders, loading up, picking up stones for transportation, etc. Also, they inform like they work under MG Narega, but however, like payments were not like payments were delayed, and till now there is no payment yet. So coming to the access to resources, drinking facility was provided by the company when the company was full fledged, but now like mostly they have like established their own hand pump, or like they have own the one who can like afford, they have established their own source of water, and others who can't afford, they have like turned to river as they have this natural boundary. Also, the government, also the panchayat has facilitated community hand pump in each line in that village. Regarding electricity supplies, so electricity supplies basically they have to pay quarterly, 3 month during 3 months. So it is like it is not like even when the like garden was full fledged, it was not provided through the garden. They have to pay quarterly bills like in the state distribution company which is located in Banarhat town. Regarding ration, like they are provided under the PDA system. So basically, they are provided atta, rice, and 1 kg of sugar. Coming to medical facilities, medical facilities was medical facilities. There was a hospital under the Red Bank Garden, but as the garden got shut, so the medical was also closed. So later, during lockdown, considering the emergency of the population, a sub-center was established with only one nurse, ANM nurse, and four ASA workers. So coming to present scenario, the garden is currently, the current owner of the garden is Sushil Private Limited, and it is classified sick garden. Sick garden in the sense, the garden, even though it is like reopened, there is no proper functioning of the factory or the garden. Like they are just in the rejuvenation phase where they are replanting the tea sampling which were turned into fallow, and they are mainly working in like construction of the tea factory is also being done. So currently there are 699 permanent workers. So among whom 465 are females and 234 are male. So here we can see there is a female dominance as well, highlighting a significant female workforce dominance. And currently no like bigha worker or temporary workers are welcome in the garden, because like they are not able to like employ their own uh, villagers. As like if a household has two permanent workers, then only one is provided with the work. And also the like wages are low as compared to nearby village. Like nearby village there is rupees 250 per day wages for 8-hour work, but in this village it's like 232 per day wages for 8-hour work. Employment pattern. So in 1991, the working participation ratio was 51.72, and in 2001 it like declined to 44.77, and in 2011 it further declined to 41.54%. So it like in 1991 when the garden was open, like when the garden was full fledged, the working participation rate was more than 50%, like 51.72. But as the garden got shut in 1992, in 2001 we can see like the WPR has declined down to 44.77, and in 2011 it was further declined to 41.54. So this table is based on the field survey. Like this table is based on the field survey, as like 5% of the total household was covered, so it account 45 household, and altogether it has a population of 225 individuals. So among the 225 individual, 1115 are employed and 110 are unemployed, resulting a WPR of 51.11%. So if we compare WPR of 2000, if we compare WPR of 2011, so when the garden was closed, it was 41.54%, and since into 2023, it has significantly increased. So it could be due to the reopening of the garden. So these are the type of employment. So out of 115 working population, sorry. So out of 115 population, 86 are main worker, which means they are like working for more than 180 days, and marginal worker accounts for 12.88%, which means they are like working for less than 6 months. Coming to the type of employment, out of 115, 72 individuals are wage employee in the tea garden, either as a permanent or maybe as a seasonal, and 10% have their own household enterprises, which means they are owning business and running small shops, and other account for 28.7%. The other population includes the one who are working as a private sector or government sector or government sector. Level of per capita income and expenditure. So this was this table is based on the shows the monthly per capita income and expenditure of the surveyed household. So the ranges are based on the state specific poverty line for 2011 and 12, which was the last poverty line drawn in the country using the Tendulkar method. There is a 12 age gap of year gap of almost 12 years between the last poverty line drawn and the present year. So it can be assumed that the like poverty line has risen. So West Bengal per capita income for drawing poverty line in 2011 to 12 was 783 rupees. So we have just doubled it to 2000. And for per capita expenditure to estimate poverty line, it was 1170 rupees. So considering the similar age gap, we have just doubled it to 2000. So as we can see, like almost 80%. Coming to the income, we can see like almost 80% have a per capita income of less than 5,000, and only 20% have like more than 5,000, which highlight that they have a better lifestyle as compared to those 80%. And similar to expenditure, majority have per capita expenditure less than 5,000, and only 2% have more than
Dr.
5,000.
Silpikar, could you mute Dr. Silpa? Dr. Silpa, could you mute your? Yes. Yes. Go
Monthly
ahead,
per
Tanvi.
capita monthly per capita consumption expenditure. Uh, so here we can see like it was drawn the monthly per capita expenditure for rural household is like rupees 1750 NSSO. So monthly per capita expenditure for food item like include all the basic items such as a cereal item, pulse item, meal product, edible oil, vegetables, egg, meat, fish, spices, beverage, processed food, etc. And for non-food, like it actually include pen, tobacco, intoxicant, fuel and light, toilet article and other household consumable, education, medical, consumer services, entertainment, rent and other taxes. But as it is a like traditional plantation village, so we have just included the basics. Included the basics such as like pen, tobacco and intoxicate, fuel and light, education and bills. So therefore the monthly per capita expenditure for non-food we have like considered is rupees 788. So if we see like the table, it is quite clear like majority of majority of the villagers have monthly per capita expenditure less than the average rural household, which is less than the state average. Similarly, regarding the non-food consumption, almost 88.9% monthly per capita expenditure for non-food is less than 788 rupees. Coming to the role of local government and NGO, so the local government, the village falls under Banarhat Gram Panchayat too, and the panchayat members act as a bridge between the village and Gram Panchayat. So basically, the local government, the main role of panchayat regarding the village is to give details about the numerous schemes that are going on through the West Bengal government, such as Shikhashri, Kanyashri, Subud Sati, Old Age Pension, etc. Uh, so the main role of the panchayat member is to disseminate the information to the villagers. Through the when we surveyed the villages through the household, we just got to know that panchayat has provided like single latrine and drinking water facilities such as community hand pump to the villagers. Additionally, the panchayat has also given small street light in the village road, as well as a drinking water tank was also constructed, but it was not yet function. Similarly, schemes such as Ujjwala Yojana has also been disseminated in the village, and majority portion of the villagers are a member of Ujjwala Yojana. But the main problem here is like they cannot afford, due to low income, they cannot afford to refill the gases, so they just stick to firewood. And regarding the Indira Awas Yojana, there is no a single recipient of Indira Awas Yojana in the village. And for old age pension, they used to provide, the government used to facilitate like 1,000 per month to both male and female when who are 60 plus. So these are some of the field glimpse. The second picture here, these are the villagers who are who are gathering the stone, and for that they get like daily wages. This second slide shows the it is the Cha Sundri project that is ongoing in the village. There is the health sum center, which was constructed, which was allotted in the Red Bank hospital, which was funded by Red Bank Group. And here at the end, it is a small medical shop. These are the aids which are provided through the panchayat, the latrine facility, the community hand pump, and the water tank. This is the tea factory which is under construction now. Findings and observation. It can be observed from the census report and visual interpret map that there are drastic changes in land use and land cover classification of the Red Bank Tea Garden. So in 2021, the garden was closed, leading to most of the land becoming fallow as the tea plant perished due to improper care. Comparing to census data in 2011, the garden was already abandoned. However, the LULC data from the census categorized 756.8 hectare as natural area, despite the village having no actual natural area. Instead, it was historically a plantation village with its primary economic activities centered around the tea industry. The survey also confirmed that there was no particular agriculture activity in the village. There was no recorded change in land use and land cover data between the 2001 and 2011 census year, even though the garden had been abandoned since 1992. However, there should be observable changes in the physical landscape due to the prolonged abandonment. So the study also reveals the census data for 1991, 2001 and 2011 shows that different variation for the growth of population in the village. There is a positive growth of the population size for the village. The working participation rate of the village was 51.72% in 1991, which was decreased to 44.77% in 2001, and later it was again decreased to 41.54 in 2011. But the recent visit in the field revealed that WPR has increased to 51.11%, as this could be due to the reopening. However, the upcoming census could confirm it more better regarding the WPR. The decline in work participation can be attributed to closure of tea garden in 1992, which was the primary source of employment for the local population. The upcoming census can clearly reveal the workforce situation in the tea garden, as the tea garden has reopened, so the working participation rate has a prediction will further rise. The majority of population, approximately 62.6%, is employed as regular wage earner in the tea garden, either as a permanent worker or bigha worker, and 8.7% of the population operates their own household enterprises, such as owning small shops or businesses. The remaining 28.6% are engaged in various other occupations, including private and government jobs. The villager did face like instability as they lost their job when garden was closed, and mostly women remained unemployed as they were more reliable to plantation work. But women generally have a secondary option to work as a seasonal worker in nearby tea estate in peak season. But during lean season, like they too did not get any kind of work, and it was like working only in the peak season is not like enough to run whole year. So basically, men used to migrate to other urban areas such as Kerala, Bangalore, Chennai, etc., in search of job to supplement income. Coming to per capita income, so the per capita income and expenditure are drawn by the doubling the last poverty estimate reveals that 20% household which has less than 2,000 rupees per capita income are estimated to be fall under below poverty line considering their per capita level income, whereas household with per capita income of 2,000 to 5,000 income can be assumed to have a better lifestyle compared to those who falls below poverty line. And lastly, household those have per capita income of more than 5,000 rupees can be assumed to be a much better lifestyle with high monthly income. For per capita expenditure, 48.9% of the household has a per capita income less than 2,000. 46.7% of household has per capita expenditure between 2,000 to 5,000 rupees, and 4.4% has per capita income of more than 5,000 rupees. Therefore, majority of the household has been per capita expenditure less than 2,000 and can be considered that they fall below the per capita expenditure. This assumption will be very much clear after the new poverty lines are being drawn. The major coming to monthly per capita expenditure, the majority of the household, that is 95.6%, have a per capita food expenditure less than 750 rupees, which is below state average. And for non-food product, 88.9% of households spend less than average monthly per capita expenditure on non-food product, and only 11.1% monthly expenditure of non-food item is above than monthly per capita expenditure for rural India. Although the garden has like reopened and there is no such assurance of smooth functioning, the wages offered are lower compared to other gardens, and the garden has implemented a policy to employ one permanent member per household for time being. This limited opportunity is insufficient to support an entire family member. The similar situation is faced by many gardens at present time, and there is a serious need to look upon this negligence toward the laborer who were just being exploited by the tea sector and left abandoned. So there is a recent SOP on from government of West Bengal, which guaranteed short-term settlement for abandoned or closed tea garden which are under the ownership of government of West Bengal. So under this SOP, if the lease of a tea garden has expired, or if it is remained closed for more than 3 months without settling the dues of the employee, the concerned tea garden may be like temporarily allocated to companies or individual for management. These are my references.
Done, Radhali?
Sir.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I will add also few points with this relating to these presentations. We have actually tried to capture 26 villages, and this is one of the tea plantation village in Duars, and this database is under progress. We are computing this data, including the maps. We have digital data, we have secondary data, and we have the field data. And there are various kind of tea estates, close abundant tea estates, running tea estates, villages, and also forest and the border villages, which is neighboring to the Bhutan, and where the other form of diversification has happened due to closure and abandonment of the gardens. So we are trying to create the local level, the micro level database based on the village level information of 26 tea estate villages in Duars. So with this kind of a preliminary findings we have found out, and once all the 26 villages are there, we will be in a position to share in the larger platform in days to come. With this, and thank you, Radhali, for the elaborative presentations, whatever data work we have done. So now the house is open, particularly to the Radhali, specific questions anyone has have. Other than then, we'll go for general discussions. Yeah. And in the meantime, I would also like to say that we have a senior professor, Professor Rana Behal, who worked on the labor history in the labor on the during the British period. He has also joined. So I would request him also to participate or put his questions to larger topic on the seminar, or if he can share. Then we have Dheeraj also. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
I just joined, so I'm not in a position to comment on the data she has presented, but I think need a little more organized presentation. The data obviously is very interesting, but I'm not in a position to comment at the moment.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. But thank you for joining, sir. Thank you.
Oh, welcome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, Dheeraj, I would request Dheeraj.
Hello, Abdullah. I think, Radali, if it is your master's dissertation, then the effort you have put in organizing your work, I think at your level is fantastic. You need to improve in it, as Professor Rana Behal also mentioned. I would rather, since Professor Abdul Hannan is also the co-author of this paper, I mean, of this presentation, I would just like to ask Abdul
Yes,
Hannan.
yes, 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 please.
There are certain other issues which have recently emerged. I'm just asking some general observations as a person who is also belong from this region. Recently, regarding this closed tea garden, the Sikh tea garden, and all, there are certain new political economies also emerging. For example, the land mafia issue is there, the conversion of tea garden land in different parts of the entire North Bengal, starting from Islampur, then close to Shiliguri, then I hope in other parts of the North Bengal or India as well. The second aspect that I think is important to understand, when we talk about we have in all three presentations the feminization of work has thoroughly come out, but I would like to know about workers cooperative as a successful alternative method, if it is in operationalizing or reopening the Sikh tea gardens or closed tea gardens of North Bengal. That can be another area that from this discussion of these three presentations, we can move forward in the future, or if you have any observation regarding that. And the third aspects I would like to know about, since you mentioned about this Red Bank Tea Garden, it was the Dead Valley. It is called the Dead Valley, if I'm not wrong. I heard in a newspaper when the frequent news of dying workers was coming out from this tea garden. What about the imprint? When we talk about tea garden or tea industry is close to North Bengal. Its overall economic development is relied upon it. But if we talk about the general discussion of the development, I think these issues never come out in the political forum. Or in the general elections, or if we talk about the assembly election, sometimes if we talk about the other kind of election. So why it is that it is not getting that kind of center stage in the political economy of the North Bengal or in any other parts of the tea plantation area of the India? I think with these three things we can start our discussion, and gradually we can start our feedbacks and start our inputs so that we can proceed with a larger discussion. I will stop here.
Okay, thank you, Dheeraj. So, do I need to respond, or others also will take?
Let it open. I think we all know these issues.
Yeah. So, anyone in the house want to respond? Please go ahead. Any of the questions? There are few questions he has observed. He has talked of the new political economy, then conversion of land to the other sectors and diversifications. Then also there is a critical point of feminization of labor. Then issues of the workers' cooperative or the contemporary scenarios, and how what is the alternative strategy which should be coming forth from this kind of a forums or discussions. So anyone want to speak on this? These are the few questions which Dheeraj has put forward.
Yeah, Dr. Hanan, I think I will just give some input from.
Dalia.
I'll just give some input from my side.
Oh,
Hello.
सुनो.
Yes, sir.
दलिया जो है बचा हुआ है.
Rana sir, can you mute?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, Dr. Professor Binod, please.
Yes. So regarding these two, I think the three issues, the land issue, cooperatives issue, and feminization issue, these are central to these, not only the tea plantations in North Bengal. I think these are central to the entire plantation sector and across throughout the country, wherever plantations are there. So I've been reading on similar plantations in coffee, in rubber, in tea, in spices, and the issues are at least some of these issues are seems to be common to these things, common to these plantations, and the underlying stories seems to be somewhat similar. Now, the question of land conversion, I think that's one of the big things that is going on. Land having alternative uses, and plantation, I mean, the general scenario in which either yield or productivity in these sectors, whether it's tea, coffee, rubber, and all those things, kind of having either stagnated or is going to be threatened because of the new dangers like climate, environmental issues, climate issues, or even reduced productivity due to what we call overuse of land, these kind of issues. Because of these factors, somehow the interest in converting land from one type to another, from estates to some other form, or intercropping, or some other forms of cropping, that is estates or planters across the economy has started showing interest in doing this. But what stands against them is probably the law of the land, institutions that exist, formal institutions like either the land reforms, the acts that came during the Land Ceiling Act, or the state rules that has come in these places, because of which the conversion is not taking place. Or else these conversions should have taken place much stronger. And there has been conversions, covert conversions that has been occurring in many plantations as such, in some way or the other. Now, one way to think about this thing is that is the estate-like plantation, the era of the estate-like plantation over across crops, whether it is tea, coffee, rubber, whichever you talk about, the estate mode of plantation, industrial plantation, is it over? That's one thing to think about. And there are more than one reasons to think why we should be thinking in this direction. First thing is that we don't have the kind of interest that huge, big agrarian, agricultural, industrial capital that had interest in plantation, in crop production, that is declining. And while that their interest is actually moving away from crop production into processing alone. So the crop production part is getting left behind, and the processing part, where the value addition is higher, that is becoming the center stage for the big monopoly or the oligopoly industrial units, as the big what we call the big players in tea, coffee, and all. Their interest in the farm itself is reducing, in growing itself is reducing, and they have moved out of growing and they are moving into this thing. In Kerala, at least in Kerala and Tamil Nadu, at least, there has been experiments of these farms where these large planters are left behind, and being kind of the control being left with the workers, and the workers taking up this thing. The results has not been so very encouraging. Workers taking up the management of large plantations and trying to run it profitably, or at least even run it in a manner that they can get their to get end up paying their wages. Not been it has not been very successful. So the workers running their own estates, that does not seem to be a very what we call does not seem to be an out kind of a way out of what we are having right now. Cooperatives, the next possibility is cooperative workers or sets of people coming together and forming cooperatives and running cooperatives to and having cooperatives to run these things. Uh, uh, as we know, cooperatives have a long history in many other sectors. Some of them are very successful, like for example, milk and or sugarcane. These kind of things we have been very successful. But generally, cooperatives have not been successful for various reasons, political intervention, then clientele, pattern client relations, and so on and so forth. The new mode, that is the farmer producer companies where through which cooperative or processing and other kinds of activities are taken up, or even collective farming through farmer producer companies. Some places there has been some amount of success that has been found in vegetables. This has been found to be a reasonably good successful model. There has been successful models in vegetables in some parts of what we call UP and other parts of India. So Maharashtra has been found to be successful. Coconut in Kerala, there has been some success in farmer producers companies as such. But again, when it comes to plantations, where at least one example that I can think about is coffee, where FP farmer producer companies have been formed across in many
Sir,
coffee and other places.
ठीक हूँ
Yes,
सर.
yes, Dheeraj, yes. You want to say something?
ठीक है सर, भेज दीजिए.
Yeah, the but not so successful again. Now the point that I'm trying to make is that all of these and it is in this context where the plantations not being the interest of the planters themselves being lost in this thing, workers having to manage this thing, or some other ownership has to come in, has to run this show for planters over here. In this context where feminization is taking place, workers moving more and more of women being into entering this thing as if because I mean, of course, traditionally they were part of this labor because of some other reasons, but now apart from those reasons, also more and more feminization is taking place in this particular field. Essentially, when the sector is becoming more and more distressed. So this entire sector, the way the plantation, the land question, the feminization question and the ownership question, all of them are kind of tied up together. We don't see any, if you ask me frankly, what I've seen from different types of plantations, I have not seen uh, any model which we can say that this has been a successful model in terms of shifting away from this thing, right? But in some areas where in Kerala, for instance, where there was farmer producer companies in coffee sector, we have noted this thing, we have seen this thing that even when the plantations are very small, the estates are or the growing areas are very small, when there is sufficient when there is a sufficient incentive structure for farmers, for growers to come together, and if they do take it up, in Wayanad region in Kerala, there has been some success for farmer producer companies. But even when cooperatives themselves were not successful over there, company seems to have made some success for over there. But that again, when you compare that with the Chikmagalur region or the coffee producing regions in Karnataka, their FPCs are successful in terms of being successful organization, but not successful for the growers themselves. So this entire, I mean, we are yet to see an alternative to what is going on over there. At this point, I cannot say that there is an alternative that is already existing over there, but we need to experiment much more before this for something to come out from the kind of experiments that are going on. I have a feeling that the farmer producer companies experiment that is going on right now, that may have something interesting in the future to come up. I think I'll stop here.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Binoj. Anyone from the house want to respond any of these queries?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, Vikas. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree what Professor Binoj was trying to suggest. Just to add to this, what Professor Dheeraj was asking, if we, Professor Binoj has talked explicitly about the experience from Kerala and Tamil Nadu, but if we see the cooperative mode of production in tea in case of West Bengal and Tripura. So Tripura, there is one story which is celebrated from one of the tea estate which was closed in the early 90s. But if we look into the case of West Bengal, except one which is often cited, that Sonali tea estate project. Apart from that, we don't have actually much example. Although some of the organization recently they have started coming together and putting up a voice for in favor of workers cooperation, but we don't see in the ground. But let's hope for it. And but also at the same time, when we talk about what is the alternative mode, but we really don't know what is going to happen to this organized and large scale tea estate which are getting closed. But the recent trend suggests that there is a lot of land grab and this again exercise of political power, but which leads to the second part of the question of this land use change and other things. But if we see this recent move even of the West Bengal state government to give away some of the lands even in the functional tea estate to in the name of tourism development and tourism industries. But the recent development in last few weeks, we see there is a lot of resistance from the workers unions and people from the tea estate. They are raising the concerns that again that same question: who is going to benefit from this kind of project, so-called labeled as development? So essentially, this capital coming in the form of promoting tourism, yeah, by altering the existing use of land use in the tea plantation North Bengal. Again, this question of who is going to be benefited, and does it leads to any kind of positive development in the tea industry itself? Yeah. So that are also some of the questions that we need to look, and that is the need of the hour to talk on these issues as well. So I feel this is a very pertinent question.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Vikas. Anyone would like to respond at a quick respond? Vijayda, would you like to say something? Because we'll be going, this is the last round, and then at the end I will conclude, and then
The thing which Vikas just told, Professor Vikas just told is true. My question, I am from the tea area. I have seen already the damage already done, because if you see in the Makaibari tea estate, the previous order was clearly written that there is no uprooting of the existing tea estate to establish or to install any types of commercial activities. But if you see in the tea garden in Terai, like there is a big group, Mayfair already they uprooted some hectares of areas, and already established a big hotel, some and big political leaders are also spend the nights in this hotel. And if you see in the Makaibari, the famous Makaibari Darjeeling tea, firstly Raja Banerjee handed over the ownership to Chatterjee Group, that means Lakshmi Tea Company. They also signed a MOU with the Ambuja Group. Ambuja Group then signed a MOU with the Taj. Now there is a big Taj Chia Kutir which costs around 22,000 per night. So already damage has done at the name of the tea tourism in North Bengal. And the recent order also reflected the same. And 3 days before, government has issued a clear or direction that there is no issue of uprooting any existing land of tea. Only the vacant, unused land of tea will be used for this purpose. But it's ridiculous to see these types of order. Already damage has done. But my observation related to the uh, Red Bank, particularly Red Bank. The Mr. Sushil Das, he has a once upon a time he was a small tea grower. After that he established a bottle factory. After that he purchased this garden. But as per my knowledge, he has invested and planted some new plots in their bank. But due to the government bureaucracy of the red tapism, he is failed to get the lease from the West Bengal government. But the recent SOP of the closed tea garden, it is also very much ridiculous. So my opinion is that is truly the government is really they have the intention to really boost the new entrepreneur to come here and to invest, because now if you see in the tea plantation, in every aspect of the tea industry, I have seen since last 5 to 10 years, 5 to 6 years, everybody is bleeding and everybody is saying is I am facing loss. Owner is also saying, bottle owner also saying, small tea also saying, broker also saying, buyer also saying. But I don't know how the broker has been facing loss, how the buyer has been facing loss. So it's very complicated valuation of the tea industry, which I observe. I am in the tea industry since last 28 years. बट जिस दिन से हम ये इंडस्ट्री में हैं तब से सुन रहे इनका अच्छा नहीं है फ्यूचर. बट आई आर पासिंग ऑलरेडी 22 years, 28 years. So I don't know how it is going on in the same pace. Then what will be the fate of the tea industry? But my question is that it is true that the price of the tea is very much stagnant since last 10 years. Everybody should go in the inner problem of the tea industry. This is which is need of the hour. Otherwise, we'll if you see in the Darjeeling, and now last year the production of the Darjeeling is only 55 lakhs. From 1.5 crore to only 55 lakhs. If it is going on within 10 years, Darjeeling will be shown as a dinosaur. But Darjeeling is very much famous as the champion of the tea. So I think in comparison with the other Kerala and Tamil Nadu, I think North Bengal now tea industry is passing through a very dark pathway, but it is very unfortunate to say, though the tea growing districts like Alipurduar, Jalpaiguri and Darjeeling has 2 times of MP from the ruling government of the central government, because as per my little knowledge, the state government has very limited power to change the situation. The main power is from the central government. So I think already government has taken some initiative to help the workers. So I think today's deliberations, presentations are very much useful for me as a learner, and I think I request Dr. Hannan to please continue your initiative for the prosperity of our tea industry, not for North Bengal, for all the Indian tea industry. All the best wishes for a brighter future of the tea industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you. Any other question from the house? Anyone want to respond? Any question? Anyone? We also received one question on the chat box. Professor Bimal Khawas. He left though the meeting, but he was asking also whether labor-friendly cooperative mode can be initiated, or will be a viable project in that line. That was his query. Yes, Monica.
Hannan.
Yes.
I have seen the Durgabari Model Cooperative Factory which was very much famous, or a very prominent example of the worker cooperative. But recently, I came to know from one of my fellow small tea grower from Tripura, it has totally failed now, and the inner politics of this Durgabari ruined this massive cooperative movement. I think this is the main problem for a cooperative, or we are also going in the same phase. You know that we have so many self-help group or cooperative types of self-help group tea factories, but our failure percentage is more rather than the success. So it is very difficult to say anything, but I think time is the main factor, or the some leadership, very positive and efficient and effective leadership should be come forward to take this take, take this initiative in a meaningful way. Otherwise, I think Durgabari failure is a big example for us to learn, I think.
Okay. Thank you, Bijada. Yes, we'll take a note of it. Monica has to say something. Is Monica is responding something?
Uh,
Yes.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, Monica, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes. First of all, sir, very good session. Sir, so much things got to know from this session, sir. Sir, I have one query I want to know, sir. That is, sir, about the future sustainability of the tea plantation, as in the from the first presentation to the last presentation, it was very clear that in the tea industry one paradigm shift has been observed, that is from export to domestic, and also orthodox to CTC, and from big tea estate to small tea estate, and one more shift, that is from labor to technology. So I just want to know, sir, about the future sustainability in terms of economy, as the export has reduced, and also the labor, because in present nowadays the small tea growers are increasing more, and the small tea growers are becoming more technology, going to be more technology compared to the labor. So I just want to know about the future sustainability, sir.
Okay. Okay. Is the question addressed to me? Yeah, I think yes.
Shall I
Yes, 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 Bijada.
shall I answer the question?
Yes, yes, Bijada. Please go ahead.
Yes, madam. Your question is very much interesting. So I want to share one thing, that the positive hope of the ray is that the Indian export has been shown a robust growth, 254 million kilo last year, which is the highest number of export India ever seen. And the recent International Tea Committee report, it is showing that India was up to 2023, India was the fourth largest tea exporter in the world. But in 2004, it is upgraded to third. So Sri Lanka is now fourth, first China, second Kenya, India third. So the export side is very much rising, and very much nice to see that it is booming. But the one thing is that, which is we observe for the main problem of the sustainability of the tea industry is the price stagnant, and it is very clear to share with you that total tea market is now controlled by the multinationals. One is TCPL, Tata Consumer Private Limited, and the other is the Hindustan Unilever Limited. And the 80% of the packet is controlled by these two big giants. And Now the main problem is that the small tea growers or the bot leaf tea is the low cost, medium quality tea, which is a big market because India is a very different types of livelihood or income based population. So bot leaf tea or the small tea growers tea is very much price friendly or pocket friendly for the lower income group and the slum people and others. But one thing is that the cost of production of the big tea gardens is day by day is rising, but the stagnancy of the tea price also is creating a big problem for their sustainability. Yes, you are rightly, madam, you are rightly said the small tea growers are much more technology friendly and they are using the mechanization to reduce their cost of production. It is true, it is true, but the price of the green tea leaf also a big challenges for us. I have started my plantation since 1994 and I have plucked first tea leaves 1996 at the and that time I sold my green tea leaves at the rate of rupees 16. And the same thing which I sold last year in the October, November, December is the 16 rupees. So already 28 years has passed, but the price of the green tea leaf same. So this is a very pathetic scenario related to the price of the as well as the small tea growers and for the big growers also. So I think the time has come uh, and within 5 or 6 years we will be able to see a rapid or the robust changes in the big estate or the corporate sector because day by day their cost of production is rising and the price is stagnant, so they have to change another scenario like it may be happen when we see the plantations will be controlled by the workers and the factory will be managed by the owner. So all big and small, all will be dependent on the bot leaf sector. Bot leaf means there is no captive plantation of their own, and they are totally dependent on the outsource of leaf. That may be happen in the next few years. That is my perception. I don't know whether it will be happen or not, but anything. I hope that if the central government will take care of this industry, I think it will be survive. Otherwise, I think Darjeeling is a very recent uh, destructive initiative by all of us because we are the part and parcel of the tea industry. So after Darjeeling, it will be go for Duvars, Terai, then Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and then Assam also. So I think all we are bleeding, but somebody to save us by the initiative of this, like you, by the NGOs, by the other civil society bodies to protect our 200 years of tea industry.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you, Vijay. I think we have almost covered more than 10 minutes extra because we are up to 5 o'clock. So I think I will conclude by few words if there is no one is want to intervene, and then I will hand over to Professor Binod. I think there are few observations we have been very looking from all the presentations and some of the macro level trends which Professor Binod has mentioned and the data driven empirics of it. The secondly, regional level, the Vikas has mentioned the doers, how the closure and reopening of the garden is happening in a very casual way, not only in the casualism of labor, but the casual form of governance. And the third aspects, which Rudali and my involvement was identifying the vulnerabilities in the rural ecosystem in the plantation landscape. So these are the three ways, and then we are also coming into, as I have already mentioned, the 26 villages data, because because all the presentations, one thing is very common is that there is a data gap. And data gap is to be that is a part of the governance and the institutions. We have a regulatory agencies, we have a land as a state subject, and which are also being leased out to the corporates for long-term lease and so on. So, in light of all those, and then Dheeraj has also mentioned something called new political economy. Under that light, I'll briefly summarize some of the few points in terms of North Bengal, particularly. In North Bengal, we have around 277 gardens, including hills, terai, and duars, right? And then in Darjeeling Hills, there are 85 gardens or 87 gardens. There are terai 45 gardens, then duars 61 gardens. And in the daily laborers around 2,80,000. This data I'm sharing based on the recent survey, the latest survey which was done in 2024 14 by the government of West Bengal. And then around 260,000 the employment in the state sector, particularly hills, terais, and duars, which includes labor, staff, all kinds of management, and so on. And there are within this the 277 plantation villages, there are around 8,70,938 as per 2014, that non-workers. Now coming back to the tea area, you will find as per the tea board, it has shown this in the West Bengal, particularly in the northern district, the state sector is situated, and there are around 1,14,479 as per the tea board data. This much of land under organized sectors. If we roughly estimate with this data and the recent notification of government of West Bengal, which increase the land diversification from 15 to 30%, so roughly around 35,000 hectares of land would be, I would be saying would be, because impacted based on the land diversification. Now the question is that whether all the tea estate would be equally participating in the land diversification, whether the land along the big urban areas, particularly Siliguri urban agglomeration, some of these tea estate would be interested to land diversifications, whether there is a whether there is a something called initiative to revive the tea plantation economy based on the capital investment in the tea estate. That gives a lot of questions to me, because many of these areas, maybe the tea estates will not be engaged. Merely some of the states along the Siliguri urban agglomeration may be interested for the development or the diversification. And the clauses were given in the land diversification is tea tourism, starting from tourist resorts, and this green technology, food processing units, and social infrastructure, school, college, university development, bank, post office, then medical college, hospital, and so on. So there are many one can see in the notice. But what I'm trying to say here is that in terms of new political economy, if the 30% stake is given to the favor of the company, what happens when these duars or Darjeeling tea estates frequently facing closure and reopening, whether the tea estate communities also being given due importance by the government and regulatory agencies, as well as the government of India, through the help of through this Minister of Commerce, and also by this government Minister of Commerce and Tea Board of India. We have also seen the Tea Board has also been not been in a position to publish tea statistics, which is the basic requirement to fulfill the data gaps for bridging the overall health of the tea industry. So those kind of gaps are also there. Similarly, coming with the notification of the government of West Bengal, if one can see whether this increase of 15 to 30% is an ad hoc measure to lease out the land, or if there is some kind of study. If there is a study, the government of West Bengal would have been bring it to the public notice that this much of survey and this is the result, and through which we are trying to tap some kind of capital for the welfare of the tea state as well as the laboring community. in a wholesome manner. And it is to be told also here that it is not the government of West Bengal. In 2019-20, the government of Assam also diversified the land up to 10 to 15%, and they may be also doing the same thing. So the question is that the new political economy, one has to really look, and a kind of a requirement is like particular tea states, particularly the communities who are inhabiting in these areas. Like recently, government of West Bengal also announced something called that uploading all the land deeds, entire state of West Bengal, on online platforms. Similarly, there could be some kind of a demand from the tea communities or the small tea grower communities. The lease documents of the tea state should be uploaded in the digital platforms so that we know how much land which company occupies and how they are reinvesting, because they have been. And the secondly, with this new particularly with the land diversification notification, we can also be said that whether this kind of a land diversification, some measure would be taken of mapping the land use through the digital platform. Like we have a Google Earth platforms readily available. Through that, how much surplus land is available, which tea state, we can easily get updated, and whether those initiatives are being taken forward by the state governments, either in West Bengal or Assam. So I leave some of these question marks on this, on new political economy and the land diversification. And also there could be whether some kind of a regional planning and advisory body, so that some intensive studies which gives a kind of a regional database for the welfare of the industry, which has been there for pre-independence, post longer period of time, and which is also providing largest employment in the private sector. And also, this notification doesn't give much clarity that if the land is being leased out for the building, real estate, college, university, what is with the lease period? Normally in the tea estate, the lease period is 30 years, but the real estate cannot be built up for the 30 years lease period. So all those terms and modalities, the government notification is unclear of about. So that I keep all these questions before this forum, in relation to the particular new political economy and the cooperatives and the smallholder models we have in Duars, in some kind of in Tripura, like particularly Durgabari, as Vijayda has shared. So we have some areas success models. So whether as a government, either national government or the state government, are ready to make a transparent ecosystem within the tea economy, whether the governance would be taking care. So these are the few questions I also have, because I also do not have question answer of direct answer on the sustainability concerns, but I have these questions in my mind which are also haunting me. So I end here my comments at the end of the program, and I hand over to Professor Binoj.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hanan. Thank you for chairing this session and moderating this session so well. The National Research Program on Plantation Development acknowledges with thanks your role in holding this conference, this webinar, bringing people together, and also conducting this program in such an efficient manner. It is very interesting to see that so many people have taken interest in this particular issue. It is certainly an issue of much importance, especially people who are working on plantation. I will not discuss any further on the plantation. I think we have discussed enough of it. Just to, by conclusion, I would say this thing: the plantation, the NRPPD, the units that we do engage with a lot of these issues. We try to create discussions around the really boiling issues in plantations, and this is one of the issues that, with regard to plantation, the closure of estates as one of the biggest serious issue that is upcoming in the North Bengal region as such. Thank you everyone for participating. As I had mentioned in the beginning, we do plan to improve our activities in the northeastern regions. We would look forward to interacting with you, all of you, in future also. Thank you so much for attending the webinar. Now, I will close the session as such. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.